Good evening, everyone. The City Council is still in closed session, so we'll start when they are in session. So I just want to let everyone know, even on Zoom, that, the City Council is not done with closed session yet, and we'll start as soon as they come in. Thank you.
Evening. Good evening. Okay. Good evening and welcome to MILLBRAE City Council regular agenda for May 23rd, 2023. And my apologies to the public and to the members here, the community here. We had a couple of closed door sessions that needed to go a little bit long. So thank you for your patience and we will get right to it tonight. City Clerk, if we could call the roll.
Councilmember Pappen? Here. Councilmember Cahalan? Here. Councilmember Fung?
Here.
Vice Mayor Goodman?
Here.
Mayor Snyder?
Here.
All members of City Council are present.
And if Councilwoman Cahalan could lead us in the pledge tonight. If everyone could please rise. Thank you, Councilwoman. Just a comment tonight. Many of you in the audience or at home know that we have Wordify. If you would like to speak tonight and you would like a language, if you could please let the city clerk know so that she can cue it out and we can, we're still learning how to use the Wordify tool. I do believe Mandarin works better than Cantonese, but please let the city clerk what you need on that. So first up, and I didn't see, maybe I do see. First up, we are going to do ceremonial presentations. And Councilman Fung, if you could please read the proclamation for Dan Quigg. Oh, I'm sorry.
The City of MILLBRAE commendation. Whereas Daniel F. Quigg has served MILLBRAE and Ceremonial County community since 1980, committing over 4 decades of his life to public service. And whereas Dan Quigg is the City of MILLBRAE's second city treasurer with 13 years of service before being elected to the MILLBRAE City Council for 12 years and was appointed as mayor 3 times. And whereas Dan Quigg was also a representative serving on the county's Congestion Management and Air Quality District Board, Regional Housing Need Assessment Board, as well as the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency. Furthermore, he was president of the Ceremonial Criminal Justice Council and the Ceremonial Airport Roundtable. And whereas Dan Quigg has been an active community member that constantly strives for equitable change, and his conviction is credited to his many decades of commitment. Whereas Dan Quigg's unwavering devotion to the city and selflessness had left a lasting impact on our community. And the city is truly grateful for his remarkable effort. And whereas Dan Quigg's volunteer work has been instrumental in addressing various community needs, and his dedication to service has set an extraordinary example for others to follow. Dan's ability to motivate and inspire those around him has created a ripple effect, encouraging others to get involved and contribute to the betterment of our community. Now, therefore, we, the members of the MILLBRAE City Council, do hereby commend and honor Daniel F. Quigg on his outstanding contributions to the City of MILLBRAE and Ceremonial County and extended our best wishes. And I just might add, if I may, it's not only just you, Dan, it's your entire family's dedicated service to our MILLBRAE that makes our city great. And it is my honor today, on behalf of a grateful city, to present this commendation to you and Kathy as well. Thank you so much. Please, Dan.
And former mayor, we do have Nicole Sankula, the CEO and general manager of Bosqua, who wants to say a few words, but it can come after you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, it is with honor that I accept this commendation. And it is amazing that you listed all the things that I was on. And I even forgot some of these boards that I served on, like the air round table and the round table and the air quality board. But you guys did a lot of research and dug up all this information. And it is truly appreciated that you take the time to honor me. I think I've done about 37, 38 years. I would have liked to get 40 years in, but I think I'm close, but not quite there. But anyway, thank you very much again, and I appreciate this commendation, and I will treasure it because it really tells me all the things that I did over this period of time. It's very nice. Thank you.
Well, and I would hope that all of council, we can come down and get a photograph. And Planning Commissioner Quigg, if you would like to join us. CEO Sankula, if you'd like to join us. The city clerk's getting you ready. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Schneider and members of the council for the opportunity to say a few remarks about Dan Quigg. I have had the pleasure of working with Dan as a board member for BOSCA for 15 years. And, you know, during that time, Dan epitomized to me what it means to be a public servant. And, you know, every board member comes in with a different interest and things that they focus on. And Dan's focus was always on the water customer and making sure that BOSCA stayed focused on its mission of ensuring a reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price for the water customers we represent. And I really appreciated that focus that he had, because it really made the agency do its job better, especially in its early formative years. So Dan, thank you so much for your public service to the agency. It's great to see you on screen. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I wish you all the best. And Kathy, all the best, and your entire family.
Thank you, CEO Sankula. Oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Nicole, thank you very much for the recognition. And this is one of the items that I served on that I really appreciated. I was really involved in the water, and I was very appreciative to have served that period of time. In fact, as you recall, I started out when it was BAWA, B-A-W-A, before it was BOSCA. So I was there in the old days, and I was there in the new days. What was nice about serving on that board was that we had many opportunities to go to the Hetch Hetchy project and see how the water flowed from the dam all the way to our faucets. So it was really quite interesting to go through that experience. And it is one of the obligations that I really enjoyed, and I will miss not continuing to serve on that, but the mayor is now serving, and I'm sure will do a good job for the city as I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. It's big shoes to fill with that, because your name does get mentioned at board meetings. Thank you so much. Okay, next is a proclamation proclaiming the month of June as Pride Month, and I believe we've got our representatives here. If you're welcome to come up here, let me read it and then join us. I had to find an outfit that was appropriate. It's such a great day. Whereas the city of Millbrae is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and/or questioning, intersex, and asexual, LGBTQIA+ people in our diverse community. And whereas June has historically become a symbolic month in America after the Stonewall riots in Manhattan, New York on June 28, 1969, where Marsha P. Johnson stood in solidarity to demand equality and respect for the LGBTQIA+ individuals. And whereas the LGBTQIA+ community has worked tirelessly for respect, equality, and their very right to exist. LGBTQ+ individuals have had immeasurable impact to the cultural, civic, and economic successes of our country. And whereas we celebrate all of the past LGBTQIA+ icons who have paved the way to allow current and future generations to continually and forever represent their most authentic, true self every day. And whereas, although advancements have been made with respect to equitable treatment of LGBTQIA+ persons, they still face discrimination simply for being who they are, thus making it important for all communities to stand up and show support for all who are affected. And whereas LGBTQIA youth and transgender individuals are at an exceptionally high risk of experiencing discrimination, mistreatment, and even violence, which could lead to increased suicide rates, City of Millbrae is committed to ensuring our youth and transgender are safe, valued, and supported. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for our LGBTQIA+ community, and is an opportunity to act and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. And whereas we encourage residents to recognize and acknowledge the contributions of the LGBTQIA+ members of our community as we continue to advance the principles of liberty, equity, and inclusivity for all. Now, therefore, we, the members of the Millbrae City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month, and in support of the LGBTQIA+ community. And we join the County of San Mateo to observe Pride Month with a Progress Pride flag raising ceremony to honor the history of the LGBTQIA community and recognizing their influence and lasting contributions to our community. So happy to have you here with us tonight, and so happy to proclaim June Pride Month.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Schneider and the members of the City Council. My name is Marilyn Hollinger. I'm here representing the LGBTQ Commission of San Mateo County. I'm a commissioner on that commission. And I'm here with my wife, Curio, who's joining, yay. And I'm one of the newer members of that commission. And for those of you who don't know, that commission's been around for about 9 years. It was established in San Mateo County, and it was California's first city or county commission focused on the needs of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer communities. An important goal of the commission is bringing recognition and visibility to the LGBTQ community in San Mateo County. And this proclamation that you've given us reminds us that while persecution based on sexual orientation and gender expression continues to exist in our society, your city's support shows your intolerance of this kind of persecution, and we thank you for that. I was, unfortunately don't live in Millbrae at the moment, but I was a Millbrae resident for 15 years, and my children went to school here. They graduated from Mills High School, and we lived here a long time and very much appreciated our time in Millbrae. And some people think a proclamation is just a bunch of words, and it's a lot of words. It's very comprehensive. Thank you so much for how comprehensive that is. It is really important. Thank you to, I guess, the city clerk. Thank you very much. And it is a lot of words, but what it does is it makes us feel seen. It makes us feel heard. It makes us feel like we are part of the community, not outsiders. And it's a very public statement, and having a government body make that public statement in a time when there are government bodies who are legislating bigotry is so, so important. So we thank you, and we are very proud to have you here in our county, and proud to accept this. I'm very proud to accept this on behalf of the commission. And I'd like to invite you all. We have a Pride celebration in the county, for those of you who don't know. It's open to all. It's going to be Saturday, June 10th at Central Park in San Mateo from, I think it's 11 to 4. You can Google it and find out all the details. The website's fantastic. And there's going to be the first ever Pride Parade through the city of San Mateo. So we hope you can join us for that. So on behalf of the commission and representing the LGBTQ residents of San Mateo County, I'd like to thank Mayor Schneider and the City Council for this important proclamation. Thank you so much.
And before I ask Before I ask all of council to come down so we can get a picture together, a couple of just FYIs. Councilman Fung and Councilwoman Cahalan are on our homeless subcommittee. And we do have a program with Life Moves, I don't know if you're aware of it, that tries to reach people that are being left off at the train station. And I think they just announced today, maybe it was yesterday, that the Super Bowl is coming back to the Bay Area. It came here before when I was a brand new council member, and we all received training on how to identify young people who have probably shown up in California escaping something that is scary from wherever they are. And I'm very afraid of that now. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew we have council members and we have Life Moves, that we talk about how we can help identify and help people who are escaping basically life-threatening situations. And we welcome them here.
It's places where they're being legislated away. They're being legislated, you know, back in the closet. And so we appreciate that very much.
And I would imagine, City Manager, it's 2023, the Super Bowl's 2026 now. We'll have training for that. But it probably is a good idea for us to have training again on how to recognize, especially young people, but people that, you know, need that helping hand. They've arrived here from wherever. They don't know anybody. They have no money. What we can do to help.
Thank you. And I want to say one other thing about youth, and I don't want to take too much more time. As I said, my kids grew up here, and both of my kids are transgender. That's just how my family turned out. And in different ways. One is transgender, non-binary, one is transmasculine. And my kids came out that way in their schools here. And it was a wonderful, positive experience. So you should be proud of your school system here in MILLBRAE that allowed them to be who they are and get that kind of support. So thank you.
Excellent. If we can get a council photo. I know the city of MILLBRAE is still working on the day that we raise the flag here at City Hall. We will try to get the word out. We have our fantastic public information officer, Justine, and I'm sure we will get the word out once we get that date.
Yeah, Mayor, so we haven't in past years, as you know, done a flag raising. We are still waiting for Tanya Beat to get back to us, and we'll coordinate that.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you all. And now moving on to the agenda, agenda overview and staff briefing. Take it away, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you and I have discussed, you know, typically, and this is the only city that I know that the city manager reads all the way through the agenda, and then it's kind of repeated when the item's introduced. So I'd kind of like to change things up, if it's okay with the city council, not to spend time reading the agenda and then just having you go over it. So I would move with that just to a quick update of everything that's happening within the city. So upcoming events, Friday, June 9th at 6:30 p.m., MILLBRAE Goes to the Movies, and this will be at Central Park. This is the first time this season that we will actually have it outdoors again. Also Thursday, June 15th at 6 p.m., Beats and Brews comes back to downtown. That's at the intersection of Hillcrest and Broadway. Also Saturday, June 17th, starting 11 a.m. is our Juneteenth celebration. That will be at Central Park and the Recreation Community City Recreation Center. And then Monday, June 26th is our 4th annual MILLBRAE Rotary Mayor's Cup Golf Tournament. All this is available on our website. Also, the Marina Vista and Bayside Manor Park upgrades continue. We have some conceptual designs that we share with the community. We still have a survey for people to log on and comment on the draft concept designs. So far, The concept designs include a very natural-looking park atmosphere, flexible spaces for various social exercise and play opportunities. Again, the online park design closes June 1st. The surveys, you can visit www.baysidemanormarinavistaparks.com, all one word, or log on to our website and get the downloaded information. And then lastly, our commission and committees, our annual recruitment is underway. So anyone seeking to serve on one of our commissions or committees, we are looking for them. We are looking for volunteers, and volunteerism makes the city of Millbrae a great city. So if you are interested in shaping the city, please visit our website. If you have any questions, you can contact our city clerk, Elaine Tran, at 650-259-2414, or you can email her at administration@ci.millbrae.ca.us. Again, administration@ci.millbrae.ca.us. So that's a quick briefing of everything that's happening, Mayor.
This Thursday, 8:30 is the monthly Mayor's Civic Coordinating Council. And I know some of you here in the audience come. If you're part of a community group and want to join us, 8:30, we have snacks and coffee. And we try to make sure that all the community groups, all of us know what everyone's doing and how we can support each other in that. Thank you, City Manager. Moving on then to approval of minutes, we have the regular minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, we have a report out on closed session for today, May 23rd, 2023.
Yeah, Mayor, and there's no reportable action from the closed session.
Thank you, City Manager. Approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes of February 28th, 2023, and special meeting minutes of March 14th, 2023. If there's no comments or questions, if I can have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilman Fung. No further discussion? City Clerk, call the vote.
Councilmember Pappen?
Yes.
Councilmember Kalen?
Aye.
Councilmember Fung?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Goodman? Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
The meeting minutes for February 28th and the special meeting of March 14th passed by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk. And did it get removed? We are removing one item from tonight's presentation. It's the Community Enhancement Advisory Committee tree presentation. They're working on updating the slides. So we have a little bit more time for our two commissions that are speaking tonight. First up, this is oral report from city committees and commission chairs. The first is adoption of fiscal year 2023-2024 Cultural Arts Advisory Committee's work plan. And I believe we have Chair Amy Lauer joining us.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, everyone who's here with us today. I'm pleased to be in person and maskless and presenting our work plan. That's fine, you can advance to the next slide. So on this first slide, you see our trio currently of our committee. We do have 2 open spots. I encourage all of you who have any interest in making Millbrae a even livelier place than it is today to submit your application to Elaine. We are very happy to welcome anyone who wants to join us. And I hope that some of the things I talk about will tempt you and make you curious and want to join. Because we have been told by our city staff support that we actually are the most fun committee. So there's that. Okay, next slide, please. So that is not, well, right. You never have a favorite child. They're all your favorites. So we are that favorite in the moment. That's true. So in 22, we did have 2 successful events. One was an art show, which was the first time ever to have an art show at our beautiful new recreation center. I would say it was a success, judging it against almost nothing else except people's energy as they were in the space. We had a lovely opening reception. We gave out awards. We had thematic ways of recognizing the beauty of the art and the impact of the art. We did collect almost $90 in cash, which is going to go into our fund. And we piloted a silent auction. We had a lot of learnings that we used to shape our 23 and in the future 24 art show, which I'll talk about in a minute. Dia de los Muertos. This was a very quickly planned, beautifully executed community event. The estimate was about 150. There may have been 300 people there. There were a lot of people there. They loved the entertainment, the costumes, the face painting, the food. The whole thing was really a spectacular event, very much in keeping with MILLBRAE and how MILLBRAE brings culture and festivals to life. So we can go to the next slide, please. So now I'd like to move into the 7 items on our work plan. For those of you who are unaware, we're actually in transition from a calendar year way of looking at how we operate to fiscal. So we're aligning to fiscal, which is July of this year through June of next year. So just that to keep in mind, that's how our budget flows. So I just want to first thank the city for funding a shopping trip to Costco so we could provide a beautiful reception for our May art show, which was last weekend. All the food was gone. So I would say you gave us the perfect amount of money. There were no leftovers and people were very pleased. So we had our art show last weekend, as I mentioned, and it did fall into that space. I'll just highlight a couple of things. Learning from the fall, we expanded in some ways. We started a partnership with Musicland, which is a new business in MILLBRAE. And one of the things, not only do we want to create shared community experiences through art and culture, but we also want to help spark commercial growth for MILLBRAE, whether it's MILLBRAE-owned businesses that we tap into, or community from the outside coming in and sharing our experiences and patronizing. We actually think that there is a symbiotic relationship there. Anyway, partnering with Musicland, that's something we're going to nurture and bring going forward. As a matter of fact, we had so many people who heard about the live music that Angel from the Recreation Center, he just sort of magically made theater seating for about 36 people come to life. And so thank you very much to the city staff and their agility and responsiveness. Also want to thank the Leos, who once again, they always come through. They help set up the art show, from processing art to setting up the food and sampling as well. They come with their appetites and I'm happy to feed them. So the art show was quite lovely. We built on some of the wins. And you know, we're continuing to refine how we bring that to life. So there will be an art number. The number 1 funded item in our 23-24 work plan will be next year's art show, which will be mid-May. The second is in July, so right in keeping with the start of our new fiscal year, we'll have the first ever curated rotating art gallery in the Recreation Center. It wasn't mentioned, but in 22, we actually were given the privilege of helping to curate photographs for the Recreation Center from the Historical Society, and some community members supplemented those. So there's a lot of wall space in the Recreation Center, and I really think this is a community magnet. So one of the award winners in the fall, Matt Christensen, he actually is a high school art teacher. He is the first artist who will be featured. He's declined the offer to actually put his art for sale. As you probably, if you go into libraries, coffee shops, you learn something about the artist, and sometimes they enable you to purchase. He declined that, but he will be featured. We're excited about that. On a much smaller scale, if you ever go to our farmers market, you might be familiar with a bulletin board. So we are refurbishing it, and we're going to turn it into a little mini art gallery. So every quarter, you'll see something new in there. And actually, the fact that we're doing that has sparked interest in a local artist, actually Cecilia Perez, who it's her design that you see anytime you see MILLBRAE and 75th anniversary. She's interested in creating little mini framed art for that space. So I hope that that's a segue and we can get her onto our committee. We'll see how that goes. The number 4 item is an anniversary Dia de los Muertos celebration. The city has graciously approved a budget. We'd like to feed all the people this year. So I hope there'll be some extra funds. We did raise some money in our art show. And speaking of that, I also wanted to mention one of the things that we had was a beautiful partnership with the senior boutique, so the seniors. So one of the highlights of our art show were quilts and many things that were created by our seniors that they put on sale with the cash going to donations for 2 different charities. So this is another way things can come together. But this also sparked people, once their wallets were open, they were donating to public art. So we're hoping to feed our own budget as well to supplement. Number 5, and this is, Nicola's in the audience. This is her creative idea, is to make a community shared experience and create gratitude tiles. So there are several cities in our area, as well as the SPCA. You might be familiar with the idea of community coming together and creating tiles that are then finished. So we've located a couple of spaces near the Chakouti room in the library where these could be put up. So that, look for more information about that. That won't be a very expensive project, and Nicole's found a local business that actually brings it's a mobile art creation facility. So they'll actually bring the tile creation to the people, and it should be something really wonderful. As City Manager Tom Williams mentioned, our Juneteenth celebration, the city is sponsoring. We do have MILLBRAE Cultural Arts Advisory Committee assuming that responsibility next year if that transitions well. Otherwise, we will just come and party with y'all. But we do have money allocated in our budget for that. And then the last item is just to plan for the following year. I do have a little mini appendix because we have no shortage of ideas. And so some of those, especially if our committee grows, we'll be adding those in. So the last item is just to talk about the budget. I was told we were pre-approved for $2,500. The way I've allocated that is 60% for public art and 40% for cultural events. It's roughly $500 per item that I've mentioned on the work plan. And that is the end of the work plan. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you. Council, questions?
I just think this is great, and it's very exciting to see all the activities happening through the city and the work that you're all doing. And maybe we can get this out there, and that'll help recruit your additional members, because they'll see exactly, it's very concrete to see what they would be a part of. It makes people want to apply when they know exactly what they'd be doing.
Thank you. All right, we'll work on that. Thank you so much.
This is fantastic, very happy, great presentation. Thank you for everything Culture Arts do. I'm the former liaison, I miss you greatly. Now it's the vice mayor. City manager, we had a young woman who is an artist who shows at Phil's Coffee down in San Mateo, and she would love to join, but the problem is she is not a US citizen. And I know some of our committees, or at least one commission that might be coming up next, has a special place in the ordinance that allows non-citizens to be a member of the committee or commission. So if we're going to update their ordinance, this is one of the reasons why my goal setting was to look at our committees and commissions and see if we can do things that help them thrive. And I know this young woman, I actually met with her. She's in the biofield for her professional life, but would love to give back to the city of MILLBRAE. We just have to make the mechanism that will allow that.
Mayor, just real quick, I know it's not on the agenda, but we'll be bringing that change to the city council at the June 13th meeting.
So if we could look at that. And then the second thing I have, he's actually a MILLBRAE Historical Society volunteer, but as he would probably call himself, a geek. And he would like to work on tagging, that's the right word, marking, QR coding all of the new public art that we have in MILLBRAE, and then creating a thing so that we could create a historic walk. And I don't know if that fits in your work plan. It's on I've wanted to do this for years, like the Historical Society's walk, but something that I would love to see. But we have a volunteer who would like to do that and has the skills to do that.
Thank you, Mayor Schneider. It's actually number 6 in our incremental ideas to consider slide.
Excellent, excellent. Well, tonight it is an action item. So if council.
Move approval.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pappen. Second by Councilwoman Cahalan. No further discussion?
Thank you very much.
Elaine, if you could call the vote. Hold on, we might vote no.
Councilmember Pappen.
Yes.
Councilmember Cahalan.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Goodman.
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
Thank
The
you very
motion-
much.
The motion. The motion to adopt the fiscal year 2023-2024 Cultural Arts Advisory Committee work plan is passed by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk, and congratulations, and thank you, Amy and Nicole. Next up is adoption of fiscal year 2023-2024 Sister City Commission work plan, and I believe we have Kathleen Kimura, Vice Chair, and our thoughts are going out to our Chair, Robert Gottschalk, who is recovering at home.
Right, I'm here representing our chair, Robert Gottschalk, who, in addition to submitting his apologies for not being able to be here this evening, sends his best wishes to everybody. So I can't follow Amy. I can see why she has been voted the most energetic, creative, and fun committee. MILLBRAE Sister Cities Commission is a little bit different, but it doesn't say, we do have fun, but not quite in the same league as that. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to take time to present MILLBRAE Sister Cities Commission report for this year. You have a full report in your packet, I know that. So I don't want to waste too much of your time. I mean, MILLBRAE Sister Cities Commission has been around since 2001. It was previously a Sister City Committee. It became a commission in 2001. And we comprise 11 members. We're a full complement on our commission. And Vice Mayor Goodman is our council liaison. So we look forward to Vice Mayor Goodman coming to our meetings and giving us lots of interesting reports in the future. We basically, we serve as an advisory to the City Council and recommend, we change the slide, please. Yeah. Oh, so we have the 2023 review. One of the most exciting things we did is plant an olive tree outside of the MILLBRAE Recreation Centre on June 2nd last year. And this was planted at the exact same time that our sister city in Mostar, Malta, and our friendship city in Ramallah, Palestine, planted olive trees as well. And, as many of you know, the olive tree is a symbol of peace and friendship between three cities. And really, it's thanks to the Honorary Consul General of Malta, Luis Vella, who serves as a liaison on our committee, that this happened. Without him, it would not have happened. He was able to connect Ramallah and Mostar and us together. So we really appreciate that and appreciate having him as a liaison on our council, on our commission. So can we change the thing first? Right. So as an ongoing activity, we serve as a recommending body for matters to the City Council. And each year we conduct an evaluation of our programs and events for consideration and recommendation to the City Council. And where possible, we collaborate with other committees and commissions as necessary if recommendations coincide. We also encourage and have encouraged members of the MILLBRAE Sister City Commission to have a booth and be a participant in our annual Japanese Culture Festival, which we hold on the first Sunday in October every year, because we feel that, we're not only representing Japan, we represent a lot of other countries too. So in that regard, we are working on strengthening the sister city relationships with La Serena in Chile and in Mostar, Malta, and also strengthening our friendship city relationships with Hanyu, Japan, Taishan, China, Ramallah, Palestine, and Dongguan, China. And there's also been talk on our commission. Nothing has been written in stone yet, but one of our commissioners, two of our commissioners are from Taiwan, and there's a great interest in possibly seeking out a relationship with a city in Taiwan in the future. We have a website which has been updated and is going to be continue to be updated, and it will include lots of coming events. An event that was discussed also is many years ago we did have a sister city dinner at the old rec center, where we invited representatives from all of our sister cities to get together and have a community evening dinner. And it was very, very successful. And that's something in the future that we would like to consider doing. Not right now. Can you change the, I think we're done, I think. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You know, we are looking forward to hopefully helping our Friendship City in Hanyu celebrate its 70th anniversary next year. There was a planned trip to Ramallah in Palestine this year, unfortunately. Mayor Schneider and also the president of our school board were scheduled to go to Ramallah in June. But unfortunately, because of the sort of political situation over there at the moment, it was postponed. So hopefully that will happen in the future. And that's our latest sister city. And I think it's sort of exciting that we have a sister city in the Middle East. There are a lot of representatives from Ramallah in MILLBRAE and also in the San Francisco Bay Area. So that's very nice that we can include them. So, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Kimura, or Vice Chair Kimura. You know, in terms of MCAC being the most fun, having been lucky enough to go on 2 sister city trips, paid for by ourselves, not by the city, you know, cultural arts and a trip to Malta and a trip to Japan, you know, they're both pretty equally cool on that. You know, I think for the public, what makes MILLBRAE terribly unique is we do have a very diverse community. Yeah. We have over 150 Palestinian families in MILLBRAE, for example. We are the only city outside of Europe to have a sister city with Malta. And a lot of our original peoples, or not our original peoples, but our first Europeans were of Maltese descent. So we have this lovely culture with us. And the best thing for anyone who got to participate on the olive tree planting, that was just super.
Well, you know, every member of the commission was there, every member of the city council was there, and we had a lot of community members who showed up for that. It was quite historic. And I think to be able to pull that off, you know, in a 3-way communication was really a lot of credit to our Honorary Consul General of Malta. He was
And there were two things. One thing that I was hoping Sister City Commission, with the permission of the city manager, when we go on these trips, there are gift exchanges. And since MILLBRAE doesn't manufacture a lot, it's a little bit difficult. But city manager, I told you that when I was in Congressman Mullen's office, he had nothing that said anything about his constituent cities, but maybe we could make something that reflects the MILLBRAE neon sign, which is iconic to MILLBRAE. And if that could be assigned over to the Sister City Commission, it would get, and then we get it made here as local as possible on that. And it gives us something to do in those gift exchanges on that. And then the Mayor Kawada of Hanyu has been communicating with me, and thank you very much to Kathleen and to the city clerk for helping us write our letters back, that we heal our relationship. Their 70th birthday is next year, so we're hoping to do that final push on becoming a full sister city with Hanyu.
Right.
And trying to plan some plans where we can show and raise our hands across the ocean.
Well, absolutely. And actually, you know, in California, there are well over 100 cities from way down south in San Diego to way up to Crescent City that have relationships in Japan. And so in 2018, a California-Japan Sister Cities Network was established. And this year, in fact, just last Friday, we had one of our Zoom workshops. And this is sponsored by the Consulate General in Japan, in San Francisco, and the Consulate General in Los Angeles. And the Vice Mayor of Hanyu was on the Zoom call. So it was really, really nice. It was a really nice connection. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. So they're very close to us as far as the relationship goes. It's just a question of getting over that hurdle of graduating into a sister city status.
Well, I wish us all the best of luck with that. City Council, this is also, oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for all her work and effort there. Before the plaque dedication on the 2nd, we had talked previously about some of the representatives from the Palestinian community also getting a blessing for the tree. So you might want to talk to Ed about that. We had talked about bringing someone out to do a formal blessing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Council comment? Okay, this is an action item.
Okay.
Move approval.
Thank you, Councilor Pappen. Thank you, Vice Mayor Goodman. City Clerk, if you could call the vote.
Pappen, yes. Councilmember Pappen? Yes, not quick, I'm not quick enough, I apologize. Councilmember Cahalan?
Aye.
Councilmember Fung?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Goodman?
Aye.
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
The
And thank
adoption-
you.
The adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2024 Sister Cities Commission Work Plan passed by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk. And Robert, I know you're probably watching. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Hope to see you soon. Moving on to public communication. This is for public communication for items not on tonight's agenda. I have one, I'm trying to see if I see him. I have one slip, and I will call Ron Raquel. Ron? Public comments, items not on the agenda. And City Clerk, if you can check and see if we have people online.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Ron Raquel, and to the public, I'm addressing a topic that you're well aware of, MILLBRAE and Magnolia Avenue. It seems to be moving in the right direction. If anyone in the audience would like to sign a petition to fortify this goal of having a controlled turn signal in the north-southbound direction, I've been hit about 25, 30 times crossing that intersection myself by cars, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's experienced this. Once the projects got going, even before I was handicapped, just driving that intersection, trying to turn on MILLBRAE and Magnolia Avenue, going to work, heading towards 101 was a challenge because you had people rushing to work and you had pedestrians crossing on Magnolia and MILLBRAE Avenue at the same time, and you had the light from the sun glaring in your eyes, so it was kind of difficult to see pedestrians crossing. So it's just not, it's only going to get worse once these projects get going. And since I gathered these signatures, a lot of residents have echoed that that intersection really does need to be calmed. But I'm working with Armando, and he's very supportive, and we are going to apply for a grant at the end of June. But if anyone would like to sign the petition to keep this going and to get the government, whoever supports where we're going to get these funds, I would appreciate just to solidify what needs to be done, because it's just not for pedestrian safety, it's also to have the flow of traffic go in a smooth direction. I was surprised that most people are not opposed to it, because it's just not for pedestrians, it's to calm the traffic in both directions, because people are going in both directions, trying to turn up MILLBRAE Avenue or going down MILLBRAE Avenue, and it needs to be calmed. I thank you again for all your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raquel. Do we have anyone online or on the phone?
Mayor, we do not have any hands raised
Okay.
online.
Having given it a few minutes, closing public communication, moving on to consent calendar. We have consent calendar item number 5, receive and file monthly general fund financial report for the period ending April 30th, 2023. It is an action item. And item number 6, resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase Duperon Flex Rakes and awarding a construction contract to DW Nicholson Construction for the replacement and installation of water pollution control plant Flex Rakes. It's an action item. I'm seeing nobody wanting to pull. If there can be a motion in a second.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Fung.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Goodman. City Clerk, if you could call the vote.
Councilmember Pappen?
Yes.
Councilmember Cahalan?
Aye.
Councilmember Fung?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Goodman?
Aye.
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
The consent calendar passed by a vote of 5-0.
And to the staff who worked on that, I love the addition of the photograph of the sewage treatment plant. Truly, it helps the public understand what some of these things are. So good job there. Public hearing. Tonight, we have no public hearings. So moving on to existing business. For item number 7, MILLBRAE Works, powered by C-Click Fix quarterly update information. And before you get started, Justine, I only want to say, oh my gosh, wow. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and honorable council members. So as you know, in January, we launched our new request management platform, MILLBRAE Works, powered by SeeClickFix. Since January, we've also been able to launch the mobile applications for this that are now available for Android and Apple iPhones. This platform allows residents and visitors, businesses, to report quality of life issues directly to city staff. Not only are they allowed to report the problems or things that they'd like services for, but also they can view, comment on, and vote to fix problems submitted by their neighbors or other constituents. Citizens can even create watch areas where they can receive notifications about all of the requests submitted in their neighborhood or the community areas that they would like to follow. The following report will cover the first 4 months from April to April 2023. Eduardo, please. Next slide, please. One more, sorry. Walked through the cover. This is our request categories that we currently have. We currently have 26 categories. All of these requests are continuously evolving and amendable. Go ahead to the next one, thank you. In the first 4 months, we had 109 registered users between the web browser platform as well as the mobile apps combined. The chart here you see breaks down the most used or the 97 requests that we have received in the first 4 months. The most utilized category in the first 4 months was debris and street or sidewalk, which we attribute to the crazy storms we had at the beginning of the year with all the trees down. And then go ahead to the next slide. Bless you. And then the chart here also compares the city of MILLBRAE with other cities similar in size that SeeClickFix also provides services for. So we had a total of 97 requests in the first 4 months, where a city similar in size on average has about 188 requests in a year. So we're doing really good, and our community is very engaged and active on our site, which is exciting, and we hope to see more join in. As of now, we've closed all of those 97, as this report reflects to April. We're now at the end of May, so all of those 97 are now closed. Our average day to respond is about 1 day, where a city our size is typically about 2. And then same for average days to close. We are averaging about 3.7 days, where other cities similar in size are taking about 6 days to close the request. So staff is doing really good to implement this and keep it going forward. Next slide, please. So we just want to invite at this time, invite residents, businesses, and visitors of MILLBRAE to utilize this app and to continue to try it out. Let us know what you think. And you can download it or use it on a web browser. So lots of different options to use it. On the web browser, you would just put seeclickfix.com/MILLBRAE, and it'll bring you right to ours. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, honorable council members. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Thank you, PIO Bleeker. Comments from council? Gina.
Thank you. Great takeoff here. Are we tracking, like, I got a call from a resident, a tree fell down, so it's not necessarily going to be done on this app?
Yeah, so we're kind of working, again, new software. So we are, if the resident has reported it in there, we would have it. If not, then we are figuring out processes internally. If we want to add it in ourselves, that is an option. So we're kind of working through some of that and how this is going to help and just benefit staff as well for different stats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman, I think that's a perfect question. I had a number of people contact me about trees that they were worried about. And I can, well, and then probably still. And so I've encouraged them to go through SeeClickFix or MILLBRAE Works, so we have the data, but also send it direct. You know, our chain of command is the city manager on that. And today, earlier, city manager, do you want to elaborate on the process that you're looking at for all of the requests that come into your elected officials, and on that, talk a little bit about that? Only because we talked about it earlier today.
Well, just real quick, we're working on something that would be easy for the council to then also submit requests, and then we can track those and look at our response time and get common, requests from the city council. And so we're working on, I was thinking Google Docs, but SeeClickFix may be a well-suited application, for council members to easily be able to, got a phone call from somebody, what fallen tree's an emergency versus, hey, go out and inspect this tree or take a look at it, or graffiti or litter or whatever it may be. Just something that would be easier to manage the flow of requests, so.
If I can encourage one, I had a resident on Barclay a couple of days ago said that they would like one, if not two trees. They're in the Highlands area, so they've got the parking strip and their trees have been gone for decades. So they would love to get it. So we were talking about how can we, if a request gets stuck at the city council level or on vacation or something like that, how we can direct people and start getting the residents who might like a replacement tree, get them on a list. So hopefully that's my hint. Hopefully we'll be coming out with that because there's a lot of missing trees. And if the public knew that they could simply ask, it may take us some time to get there or funding for those trees, they could get on the list. Any other comments from council?
Yes.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Quick shout out. It only took like 2 minutes to download it and register. So go ahead and try it. My question is around, I guess, trolls. People that are making requests that are disrespectful or distasteful. Are you able to, in real time, to be able to go in and delete those requests so that they don't show up and probably offend users?
Yes, so
Okay.
it would be followed to the same policy that we use for social media or whatnot. So we have our caveat of what's allowed and not allowed to be shared. So foul language or things of that nature, we can adjust in there.
All right, thank you.
I'm opening it up to the public if there's any public comments. Agenda item number 7. City Clerk, do we have anyone? I have no slips. So with that, closing public comment. Last 2 comments. I like reading at least what my neighborhood is up to on that, but I find that I'm getting a lot of Burlingame requests. And I don't quite know. Maybe because it says trees, and that's why I'm getting the Burlingame one. So just a comment on that. I don't mind getting Burlingames because they're only right next door, but it's just kind of odd. And my last question was, when the data says we're of comparable cities, what's a comparable city?
So C-Click-Fix is measuring that by the size of the city. So similar in population would be how they're measuring a comparable city.
So population, not necessarily square miles.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Great job. Truly, it was so lovely to see the data. I think we're going to change the statistics with just what's happening, but staff, thank you for responding so very, very fast on all of these. Great work. Okay. Next up, under existing business, agenda item number 8. This is a study session for fiscal year 2023, 2024 capital budget and fiscal year 2023, 2024 city council goals. This is an informational, so there's no voting on anything tonight. This is an informational item. And I was going to ask the city manager, but city engineer, public works director, Sam Batista, please take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. I wanted to introduce you to Armando Mora, who is our new Senior Civil Engineer and will be presenting tonight's item on the fiscal year 2023-2024 Capital Improvement Program. He's been here since January of this year. He relocated from North Carolina to join us and be part of our talented team here at Public Works. So I will hand over the floor to Mr. Mora, and then towards the end of the presentation, Community Development Director Mogensen will go over your council goals for the next fiscal year. So.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I've been very fortunate to present this year's upcoming fiscal year 2023-24 Capital Improvement Program. Next slide, please. The Capital Improvement Program plays an important role to ensure that city infrastructure and operations function efficiently, are well maintained, and replaced when needed for the benefit of the community and the city. The CIP includes core infrastructure such as the roads and streets, water, wastewater, parks, facilities. Other items included under the CIP is technology upgrades, software, vehicle purchases, purchases over $5,000, and studies. Next slide, please. I'd like to highlight several projects that were completed in this fiscal year. The first is the Skyline Water Tank, constructed for $6 million. It is substantially completed and has been connected to the water system. Currently, we are testing the seismic valves, and we're waiting for the ground to dry enough to place the access road there. The next project is the Upper Hillcrest Subbasin Force Sewer, constructed for $1.6 million. The Miscellaneous Sewer Rehabilitation Project, constructed for $1.6. The 2022 Pavement Maintenance Project, constructed for $410,000. And recently, the 2023 Sanitary Sewer CCTV and Cleaning, constructed for $170,000. Next slide, please. This table represents the 7 funds and the proposed expenditure for the upcoming fiscal year. The first fund, the sewer, anticipated expenditure of $14.6 million. The water, $9.4 million. The stormwater, $550,000. Streets, $2.3 million. Recreation and parks, $2.1 million. Facilities, $450,000. And the garage for $500,000, for a total of almost $30 million proposed for the upcoming fiscal year. Next slide, please. Elements of the program. One dig policy established to minimize disruptions to the public and residents instead of having utility projects separated from the paving projects. Projects are planned so that all the utilities and road work are done as one project when feasible, for efficiency and to minimize impacts to the neighborhoods. Based on the draft of the Comprehensive Infrastructure Replacement Plan, upcoming projects have been prepared that focus on priority areas. Next slide, please. The first priority area is the Helen Drive Corridor, Priority Area 1. This consists of 7 separate projects. The map that's illustrating 7 projects are color-coded. Design will begin in 23-24 for the first 2 projects. Construction subsequently in fiscal year 24-25 to be completed within 8 years for a total project budget cost of $13 million. Next slide, please. The second priority area is the Chadbourne Avenue Corridor. Thank you. This consists of 8 separate projects to be completed subsequently in 9 years, total project budget of $17.7 million. Next slide, please. This is the third priority area, the Aviador Avenue Corridor, 7 separate projects to be completed within 8 years for a total project budget of $17 million. Next slide, please. Under the Sewer Fund Capital Improvement Program, it's estimated there's $15 million available, and this will include 18 projects and programs for the sewer collection system and the water pollution control plants. The following is the list. The first is the annual collection system inspection, $200,000 towards implementation. For the annual sewer lateral and main replacement, $700,000 for construction. For the annual water pollution control plant, capital equipment replacement, $100,000 towards purchase of equipment. The biannual flow monitoring program, $125,000 for implementation. The Madrone Force Main Replacement Project, $200,000 for design and studies. The City SCADA Upgrade Project, $1.5 million for design and implementation. Next slide, please. The Upper Hillcrest Subbasin 4 South Pavement Rehabilitation, $1.5 million for construction. This was recently awarded by the City Council on April 11th. The Lower Hillcrest Subbasin 4 South Sanitary Sewer Replacement, $4 million towards construction. Under the 2023 Annual Sewer Collection System Improvement Program, there are two projects. The Awani Drive Complete Utility and Pavement Rehabilitation Project, $1.7 million towards construction. And the Arroyo Seco Storm Drain Bypass Project, $700,000 towards construction. This was also recently approved by the City Council. The next is the Aviador East Millbrae Avenue Capacity Upgrade, $100,000 towards design. And under the 2024 Annual Sewer Main Replacement, $200,000 for design for the first priority area, Helen Drive. Next slide, please. The nearshore discharge outfall, $1.5 million for construction. This is scheduled to be advertised starting in the month of June. The cogenerational system replacement, $100,000 towards design. The sludge thickener and digester number 2 rehabilitation, $900,000 towards design and construction. The Hacienda lift station rehabilitation, $150,000 towards design. The Murchison Avenue sewer capacity upgrade, $140,000 towards design. And finally, the recycled water project, $800,000 towards design to help advance the feasibility study to a 30% design for grant applications. Next slide, please. This is the Water CIP program. Under the Water Fund, there's estimated $12 million, and this will include the following 8 projects. The Ames Phase 2 Water System Mapping and GIS Asset Management of $50,000. The Broadway Water Main Replacement, $3.5 million towards construction. Again, the multi-utility project, the 2023 Annual Water Main Replacement Program for the Awani Drive Water and Sewer Street Light and Paving Project, $1.8 million towards construction. The Arroyo Seco Vista Grande Storm Drain Bypass Project, $420,000 towards construction. The 2024 Annual Water Main Replacement Project, $3.2 million for construction. And the 2024 Helen Water Main Replacement Project, $250,000 towards the Helen Drive Priority 1 project. The Aviador Avenue Water Main Replacement of $100,000 towards design, and SCADA Master Plan of $100,000 towards implementation. Next slide, please. This is the Storm CIP project. The funding available is $0.73 million and will include the 4 following projects. The Royal Seco Vista Grande Storm Drain Bypass Project, $300,000. Tioga Helen Geraldine Drive Storm Drain Improvements, $200,000 towards design. Ames Phase 2 Storm System Mapping and GIS Asset Management, $225,000. The annual stormwater infrastructure repairs of $25,000. Next slide, please. These are 2 examples of the One Dig projects, which encompasses sewer, water, and storm and streets. It's the 2023 Awani Drive project and the Royal Seco Storm Drain Bypass. Next slide, please. This is now the street CIP projects. The street fund has 3 distinctive types of projects. One is resurfacing and reconstruction, pavement maintenance, such as slurry seal and microsurfacing, and traffic calming. The funding for these projects is estimated to be $2.3 million and will include the following 7 projects. Sidewalk maintenance program, $115,000 for construction. The annual pavement maintenance program, $570,000 towards construction. The Upper Hillcrest Subbasin 4 South Pavement Rehabilitation, $487,000 towards construction. The MILLBRAE Avenue Bridge Bicycle Path, $320,000 towards design. Traffic calming program, $100,000 towards construction. The parking meter implementation, $300,000 towards implementation. And the El Camino Real MILLBRAE Avenue landscape medium improvements of $400,000 towards design. Next slide. This is one project that has been recently awarded by the City Council. This is the Upper Hillcrest Subbasin for Pavement Rehabilitation Project. Next slide, please. These are some examples of the upcoming projects: the parking meter implementation, traffic calming, and the sidewalk repair. Next slide, please. And this is another one, the El Camino Real and MILLBRAE Avenue medium landscaping. Design has started in this fiscal year and is expected to be completed the following fiscal year. Total project towards the planning, design, and outreach is $400,000. Next slide, please. This is the Park CIP project. The Park Fund is estimated to be $2.3 million and includes the following 4 projects: the Central Park and Green Hills Park pathway repair, $150,000 towards design and construction. The Mills Estate Park reactivation, $150,000 towards design. The Bayside Manor Park renovation, $900,000 allocated for construction. The Marina Vista Park renovation, $900,000 allocated for construction. Next slide, please. This slide represents the preliminary design for the Bayside Manor Park. Design will be completed in the first quarter of next fiscal year, with construction to start in the third quarter of fiscal year 24. Construction budget estimated to be $900,000. Next slide, please. This is the preliminary plans for the Marina Vista Park renovation. The timeline is similar to the previous park project. Next slide, please. And finally, the last 2 funds. The Facility Fund Capital Improvement Program has funds of $450,000 to fund the following 3 projects: library re-roof, $250,000 towards construction; council chamber upgrades of $150,000 towards construction; for the EV charger for the city fleet, $50,000 towards construction.
Mayor, excuse me, Councilmember, should we take a break? It looks like you've lost the, okay. Just want to make sure.
Thank you. The garage fund has estimated $500,000 and includes the following 2 projects: the City Hall generator replacement of $250,000 towards purchase and installation, and the vehicle replacement of $250,000 for purchases. Now I take a pause to have Community Director Andrew come here. Thank you very much.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So now we're going to talk about some of the implementation programs that we've developed based on the council goal setting. We've got a number of different programs that we've identified. There's a little bit more detail in the staff report on these, and I'm going to touch on all of them. Scoring out the top was our affordable housing and local density program, bonus program standards. So the first program that we're going to be implementing in the coming fiscal year with the affordable housing, the council has had a desire to increase affordable housing from 15% to 20%. In order to do that, we have to prepare a feasibility study to identify what the economic benefits and impacts of increasing the affordable housing requirement for projects would be. Once we get that done, we'd come back and we'd develop the local density bonus program, which is another one of the council goals. Those 2 were scored the highest. That's estimated to come in at $200,000 in the budget. Second highest scoring was the development of a business improvement district in our downtown area. That's a program to help support infrastructure, all the different factors that come into keeping a downtown in good condition. Maintenance, includes parking. There's a whole variety of things that you can include with a downtown business improvement district. That's an assessment district. We've set aside $150,000 for that program to help develop and kickstart that downtown BID district. Residential objective design standards are third highest scoring city council goal here. That's a program to update our zoning code with objective design standards for residential, single family and multifamily development. Of course, as we've talked about before, the state of California requires us to use objective criteria when we approve residential projects. And so that we have a $500,000 estimated cost for that, and that would come from our general plan update fund that we collect on every building permit. We also, tying for third place was the East Side specific plan. That'll be a multi-year project to look at the east side of MILLBRAE. It's going to be a phase one assessment. It's a first phase of a multi-year project. That phase one assessment is going to look at it's going to look at infrastructure. It'll look at it'll be an assessment. It's a needs assessment of all the things that we need on the east side. And that's a phase one. It's just the first part of a multi-year project. We estimate about $250,000 for that phase one assessment for the East Side specific plan. And that'll help identify all of the things that we need to focus on for the East Side. Once we complete that, of course, we bring it back to you. Streamline permit software, another major goal of this council to help improve customer service, get us into the 21st century so people can submit permits online. We can do online digital plan checks, have our permitting system in the cloud. We have estimated about $750,000 for that program. We've already started looking at vendors, reviewing all the different features that the city could need, whatever it is that we need to make that a success. We've put together a working group to work on that project already. That's a big goal of the council, a big goal of everybody here at the city. We also have on the list an empty storefront ordinance that was identified as a council goal. That program is empty storefront ordinances are effectively, there's a few different variations of these. What we would do is we'd look into that, bring it back to you as a council, show you the different options that are available for those types of ordinances. There's different kinds. Typically, it's a fee that a property owner might pay to provide services where the city, for example, the code enforcement might monitor those properties, make sure that they're kept in good shape, good condition, and the funds can often be used for things like helping small business assistance, that kind of thing. So we'd come back to you and show you how that works in that program. Another major council goal, solar generation, requiring over and above what the current state requirements are for solar on projects. So right now the state of California does require solar for low-rise residential, single and multifamily. There is also a requirement at the state building code that buildings be solar ready. This would explore that as a reach code to go over and above what the current requirements are with the state of California. And we have set aside $100,000 to help develop that program that would be effectively a reach code, just like we do for all of our green building codes. And finally, topping out the list, the city's tree ordinance, a long needed program here at the city, and we look forward to getting that completed. We've identified a $75,000 budget in the program for that. So that concludes my list of council goal implementation items for the CIP project this year. We're here to answer any questions, both myself, Armando, and Sam.
Thank you. I see at least one hand up. I do have some public comment slips. So let's go to council. Council will have a turn, go for public comment, and then come on back. And what's the best way to do it versus the council goals? Or are we just assuming that those are as much part of the SIP as the other ones?
Yeah, no,
So just handle it all as SIP.
So those goals that Andy just presented are in the CIP budget. And so we can just answer questions and provide feedback as the council desires.
Okay.
There may be some questions about,
Okay.
for example, I was just sitting here thinking, we threw a lot at you. And how does this work, right? When we talk about our fiscal impact, a lot of the projects up here not only include our labor force, but also include the need to, contract out, for example, on specialized skill sets for engineering design, construction, that type of thing. But as a rule of thumb, about 80% of the project costs that you see is labor, and about 20% is material. So that's kind of a way to show how much goes into, projects in terms of not only our labor force, but if we do need, for example, a contractor for construction, of a building or something, like that. So.
Okay. All right. So I saw.
There's a lot.
I'm going to go Councilman Fung, then Councilwoman Pappen, and then whoever else raises their hands.
Just real quick, if you can help. Yes, hi, Director. Just clarify for the public, the streamlined permitting software with a technology fee, obviously there's a budget, $750,000. Could you speak to a little bit more about how these fees can be recovered and how this would be monetized over time? It would be beneficial to the public to understand what that price tag means and how.
That's right. So the city has for many years collected two specific fees that are these programs are being supported by. The first one, specific to the streamlined permit software, is our technology fee. So we assess a 7% fee on all of our building permits, and that fee is collected to help pay for the computers, the computer infrastructure that we use for plan checks, for digital plan checks, for digital services related to the technology that supports our permitting for planning, building, and engineering. And so that's what the technology fee is. And that's what we would be using those funds that we already have in place to help pay for new software so that people can do a lot of this from home. You can submit your building permit from home, get your plan checks back. It's a great customer service for everybody, and it's something that we really need.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So is it not true that the permit applicants and project sponsor will be paying for these technologies as they apply for future permits and entitlements, that these fees will be recuperated through that?
That's right. The fees would be recuperated, but we also have been collecting the fees over time. So it's both in the past and the future.
So it's good to know that the project sponsors and permit applicants are paying for the software that would help increase our transparency and our efficiency of the staff and the whole system. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, Councilman Fung. Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you. Very exciting on the number of projects that we hope to move forward with. Real quick, I have a concern about residential objective design standards. I thought we were talking about design standards throughout the city, because we keep getting public buildings, which are not necessarily in our specific plans or general plans. So I didn't realize we were just limited to residential. I thought we were going to be all-inclusive.
We have the choice to expand it beyond residential, but the state requires us to have them in place for residential. For commercial projects, that is optional. We can still use our discretion when it comes to design.
No, we're not using it. This is where we get into trouble. Not discretion, because we keep running into these developers coming in and saying you can't be discretionary, you need to be objective here. So it is important, I think, from my colleagues as well, that we had certain design objectives that met our station area specific plan, all these new lovely pictures that we put in there that we wanted to comply. So this only says residential, and yeah.
So just want to try to help clarify this. Andrew, is it not true that when we talk about residential objective design standard, the word residential means not just single family, but also multi-residential?
If it includes a residential component.
So any residential component as part of the project, this would encompass all of it.
That's right.
And that, with the state law, as they mandate SB 330 and SB 35, some of those housing legislation, that applies to residential development. Although the commercial developments that we've been seeing throughout the city popping up, right, especially the life science building, they are subject to our land use discretion as a commercial development. So just want to clarify.
Yeah, no, and
Gina, sorry, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Cahalan just pointed out that amongst the subcommittee, the subgroups that all got pushed into the affordable housing, now where is it? Residential objective design standards, because it was a set of goals, includes, and I'm trying to read it from here,
I can repeat it for you if you
well,
like.
it's city completes architectural design standards for all neighborhoods and completes historic designation for all parts of MILLBRAE. This provides an additional tool, but I agree with the councilwoman completely. If you look at the character of the Lower Highlands, it is a Spanish revival. And if you look at Broadway, some of my favorite buildings are Spanish revival. And they really do set the character for Broadway and El Camino along the frontage road. So we need, and for the work that you and Councilman Fung did, you added a lot more kind of traditional architecture instead of glass buildings on that. So we don't want to lose that. So I'm right with you.
yes, so please, I think the council's intent in whole was to be more inclusive, not just residential. I understand what Councilmember Fung is saying, but we want to make sure we're covering everything. If we're making this investment now, to please be more inclusive, because we put a lot of work into those
We
things.
want to make sure it's right the first time. And we also want to take into account the historic character of all of our neighborhoods when it comes to residential design, because you are completely correct. Our city was built in phases, and each one of those phases has a certain historic character. We want those residential design standards to reflect that historic character.
As well as our downtown.
And Mayor,
As well as
those,
downtown.
those buildings you identify, because I know which ones, all of those have a residential component to them. So above.
That's true.
Above Pete's Coffee, across the street, the front, yeah, so.
It actually means our downtown was well ahead of the mixed-use movement.
Yeah, history repeats itself, that's right.
What's the European Mediterranean profile?
Sorry. Okay, so I think we have consensus on that. I want to whip through some of these other things you said really quick. So when we're talking parks and the pathways in parks like that, I do hope we are considering solar lighting as a part of that process. It's a matter of public safety. If you're going to invest in these pathways, I would hope that we are considering that type of infrastructure. Simply yes or no will do.
Duly noted.
Thank you very much. Okay, Aviador, you've talked about many projects going through Aviador there. Whatever we are doing there, we need to consider, because I think we are deeply concerned about just the neighborhoods on the east side of El Camino only have one way in and out, some of them. And so let's not make an investment without considering additional egress and you know what I mean. So please don't just, go in there, do something without helping us with that process, whether it's a grade separation or something. We cannot leave those neighborhoods with just one egress and ingress. Okay, so real fast then, the water tank up at Madrone, you talked about putting the roadway in there. There was also kind of a retaining wall. I think the gas station owner would like to assist you all in that process. We had talked about adding some outdoor seating for, I don't know, coffee or something in that area. It would just improve the upper portion of our city, because it is near the walking trails. So if you could consult there, you're going to do your roadway anyway.
So Sam, why don't you explain the geographic location of the tank that?
Right, the tank is on the other side of the freeway, so.
No, I understand that. Oh, no, it's on the,
Skyline tank.
yeah.
These are not, these are not the tanks that are just north of the gas station.
Oh, they're not,
Those are
okay.
La Prenda.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, and then, so I'm trying to go fast here. Madrone replacement. I am very curious about that. I believe we've replaced this multiple times. Sewer, water, we've had lawsuits there. How many times are we going to do these projects? I think it's sewer, water up in the Madrone area, and you can get back to me on that. But it seems like we've had multiple lawsuits and we keep throwing money in this direction. So if you could get back to us on that.
And then two, I think more quickly, the El Camino Real median design. I think that's very important here. And for all of these projects, many of them are going to be contracted out. We need to know who is overseeing the contracting out. There's a bunch of sewer work going on in my neighborhood. It's just, the more we contract out, the more I'm counting on city staff to ensure the quality of work, the repaving and everything is done appropriately. I know the city manager has been constantly saying that, but we do need to make sure that whoever you contract out to is doing the job correctly. And as a final note here, we have in the past transparency, posting exactly what you are doing on somebody's street, whether it's emails out to people saying, we are investing $200,000 to do this project on your block. We have clearly established years ago, when I was on the council, that the public needs to know what's happening on their street and what you're doing. They would also probably like to know how much you're spending in that process so they can see where their taxpayer money is going. So that line of communication is so important to people knowing. So please, if we can ensure that's part of your checklist, when you complete these projects, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Do we disclose these major projects on our website?
Yeah, but
That was
who
hopeful.
looks at the website?
We do, and we have signs now at the projects and notify residents within the area.
Throughout our website, as in like we give out these information publicly.
Correct, and when the new website does come out, we'll have, a public works projects that are going on in
Right.
the city.
Major projects,
Right.
where they're happening, timelines.
Two clicks instead of 7 or 8 clicks.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said, look, I know this city has a lot of history on things, but we are greatly improving.
Yeah.
And some of the things that are brought up are things, that have been a thorn in everybody's side for years. And so one of the investments obviously is on our website. The goal is, 2 clicks to get to any point of information. So we've invested heavily, in the tools to improve, levels of communication and responsiveness, for sure.
Thank Councilman Kalen. Okay. First of all, it's an amazing list of projects. Before I open it up to the public, just so that I can kind of build on what Councilwoman Pappen said, when you're talking about parks and lighting, I'm sure I sent it to Public Works, but I attended a dark skies seminar. So it's not just lighting the way it used to be done. Dark sky lighting means to reduce the amount of light pollution and the quality of light, because it turns out that the type of light is actually killing the insects, which then it's killing the bats, which then is killing the pollinators. So this is the whole concept of sustainability and looking at things. And I would say when I looked at every project, we're using the dig once, which for the public means if we're going to do water, let's do sewer. Maybe if we could even get AT&T and Comcast to work with us, we could do fiber optics. I would like to add one more thing with the dig once, especially on the neighborhoods that are very tree empty, is that we include replacing trees or putting in trees where there never have been there. Because I perceive, and you are going to hear me saying this a lot, that trees are as an important part of our infrastructure as the sewer pipes and water pipes are, for a host of reasons. And that was the presentation MCAC will be making, is just all of the things that trees do. And it's not an afterthought, which is sadly, it has been an afterthought for us. So there were a number of projects in there, even the water tanks, the ones that are up on the other side of 280, is the road going to be permeable? Is it going to be black asphalt, or can it be lighter, which means it reflects more heat and reduces the heat island impact? And there's so many opportunities within Public Works to kind of broaden how we've done business in the past and include more sustainability into it. And I'm happy, of course, to sit down or to connect you to those worlds. And I brought it up quite a while ago that attending how to work on heat islands at my alma mater, UCLA, was, do we plant trees? Yes. But the first thing we do is whiten our roofs, because that'll reduce the energy consumption by reflecting more heat and keeping buildings cooler. So we need to get to that place in each one of these projects. And I don't know, I know when I was in Australia, the tarmac is actually, or the asphalt's actually red, the macadam that they use. I don't know what we can use here, but if we could at least look at it, and we can look at the dark skies for that. On the specifics, the vehicle replacement, are those going to be e-vehicles, or are they the ones that aren't yet online? They'll be e-vehicles. I'm seeing the city manager shaking his head.
EV vehicles for our standard vehicles are heavy-duty trucks and equipment, just not feasible to purchase EV at this point.
Is it, I saw a Ford 150 pull a whole bunch of railroad cars on 60 Minutes last year. I know we're still getting there. And the other thing that I would bring up is they're now coming up with an electric street cleaner machine. So when it comes time to replace our street cleaning machine, there are a couple of cities, it's been in some of the civic public works newsletters that I get. So let's just keep an eye on that. In terms of the work, the 3 priorities, Helen Drive, which has huge speeding problems. As we're fixing the other things, can we also look at incorporating traffic calming? If we're going to dig up the asphalt, can we look at traffic calming at the same time? I know I'm adding more work to the project, but if we could do that, we're digging once. For Chadbourne, which is just a few blocks from me, it is one of our widest streets. It pre-COVID had cars parked all over it. It has very few trees. And because of my BPAC, my bike pedestrian hat, I've seen the county fund tree projects that are traffic calming. In some cases in Redwood City, they put the tree in the middle of the street. I'm not sure if Chadbourne would like that, but it seems to me the street is wide enough that we could do bump outs for trees and still allow parking and be able to cool down that street, which is pretty wide open. And the more wide open the street, the faster the cars drive on it. So we're trying to serve multiple things. And for Aviador, I'm hoping Councilman Cahalan and I, when we work on the east side specific plan requirements to go into the RFP or into the specific plan, we'll look at undergrounding the power lines. It has a phenomenal nexus of power lines in front of their houses, right, in fact, on the corner of Cuarto and Aviador. So if we could look at power lines, if we could at least have, I'm sure PG&E will say, sure, Millbrae, we'll help underground. But if we're going to dig open the street, maybe we can get them. I know, I'm being sarcastic. But if we could try to get them, I believe Councilman Pappen is we're on the same side of trying to get PG&E, especially that close to the airport with airplanes flying right on top. And for a neighborhood that's been neglected, that we can get some undergrounding, especially since that project's the 3rd priority. It gives us a little bit more time. The GIS, in 3 or 4 different projects, it talks about GIS mapping. Do we have GIS mapping now? Do we have the software?
We do not have the software for GIS, but this mapping will allow us to import everything that we're doing. It's more of a surveying of the utilities that will allow us to put it right into our GIS system.
Okay. I thought that we were going to budget to get you the software you need to do the job. Didn't we talk about this a couple of months ago?
Well, we are, and it's on the goals. So
okay, so it's
we have $10 of need and $1 revenue.
Okay, as long as the funding is there for it, because I have a host of volunteers to help inventory our trees. But what good is it if the inventory is on paper?
Hey, Mayor, if I can, not to interrupt here. So these designs, so you're approving the budget. These designs and contracts will be coming back to the city council. So for
city manager, they usually come back to us with approval. We don't get to see and I'm not saying I want to necessarily see the RFPs. I'm bringing them up now because I want to see these things in every public works contract, which means it's got to be in the scope of services or scope of work, and it's got to be in the RFP. And this is our way of kicking and screaming of doing climate change work or climate resiliency work.
I know there's decades of pent up frustration, but I can guarantee you that this will come back.
I'm just letting staff know exactly where I am.
And times are changing, and they have been changing, and they'll continue to change.
Okay. I saw the funding for the sidewalk replacement. Does that mean it's the project where the public can work with the city does the contracts, and the public pays for this? Lovely. Couldn't be happier with that. The MILLBRAE Avenue BPAC pathway, I hope that will also go through MILLBRAE's BPAC. So we start doing that. I had a little bit traffic calming, glad to see that. Wanted to let you know that I am not a fan of parking meters, but I am okay. I don't like it. I don't like charging for parking, but I understand the need. Can we go with kiosks? Because if you're somebody who's disabled or visually disabled, the more things we put on a sidewalk, the more dangerous it is. Okay. So, but in the goal or in the staff report, it said parking meters or kiosks. I'm just telling you, I want kiosks on that. And then one thing, yeah, I saw in the presentation, but when you're reading the staff report, it says either or. I'm just telling you what I would like to see on that. And then the cogeneration, that's great. So we're still not doing fat oils and greases at the sewage treatment plant?
No, we're not.
When we get this equipment installed, we can go back to doing fats, oils, and greases. For the residents of MILLBRAE, MILLBRAE was one of the first cities in the greater Bay Area, if not California, to accept fats, oils, and greases from restaurants and turn that into a biofuel to help run the plant. It made us unique. It made us ahead of the curve, but the equipment got old and we need to replace it. So it's actually a really, really great thing. Otherwise, you know where that fat, oil, and grease goes? Goes out in the Central Valley and comes back as chicken feed. So when we're eating chickens, we're eating that fog on there. Not one of my favorite reuses of recycled material. And then finally, what's not on here, city manager, but I know that CCAG is still looking for that $800,000 for the e-shuttle on there. When money like that gets found throughout the year, how do we build that into the work plan?
So we have opportunities for grant funding like that. We bring that back to the city council
Okay.
For an amendment into the work plan. And then if we can't fit that, let's say we're successful and we can't fit that, and then we would disclose to the city council, hey, we're going to now spend time on this. We're going to, delay or extend the timeline on another project if that happens.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I forgot one more. On the work for Tioga, Helen, and Geraldine, I remember a report when Key Lim was our director that Tioga is our one street that has the greatest chance of flooding over the gutters on there. It's one of the reasons why I had hoped that we'd build a cistern at the rec center when we had that opportunity. I will tell you that we just approved the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency's work plan, and in the work plan is to work with cities to try to find water storage and new water supply. Now, that does not mean there's money in fiscal year 23-24, but it's within that work plan. So if we can be keeping an eye on what Bosco is doing and get ourselves ready, it makes us more grant available. And I was trying to think in that neighborhood where one could build a cistern, probably not, but I do know that it floods greatly at Geraldine. So maybe there's an opportunity if we're digging up the street to put something in that can capture water and hold it till it can get absorbed on that.
Mayor, that's in that first phase of our comprehensive approach now, one dig policy on Helen Drive. That area at Geraldine and Helen is a huge issue for flooding.
I remember seeing the red blocks all winter long on that area. And so again, it's kind of bringing in climate resiliency work into traditional public works work. So you'll just hear me saying that, and I'm looking for it in every staff report from now on. Those are my comments. If there's nothing else from council, I'm going to open it up to the public. We have two people speaking on agenda item number 8, Jeff Lamont and Fernando Pena, if you want to come on up. And this time you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Schneider and members of the City Council. My name is Fernando Pena. I am the Government Affairs Director for the San Mateo County Association of Realtors. I'm here this evening in opposition to SI 5, the vacant storefront ordinance. I believe the vacant store ordinance would unfairly penalize the business community in the proposed business improvement district. I am respectfully urging the City Council to remove the vacant storefront ordinance from future consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pena. Mr. Lamont.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I wanted to concur with what Fernando had said. We are in a tougher business environment with tighter credit, higher interest rates, lingering effects of the pandemic on our workforce. And I'm just concerned that doing a empty storefront tax or fee is going to hurt our small businesses. So I think it's something that we need to think about really seriously, and I am concerned about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lamont. Any people on? Okay.
Yes, Mayor, we do have Mitch Spiegel. Please unmute yourself to speak, please, Mitch.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
You're coming in great.
Awesome. Thank you guys and appreciate the time, Mayor, and the rest of the City Council. My name is Mitch Spiegel. I'm a small business owner. I work with a lot of clients that are either on Broadway, either tenants or the owners. I just wanted to reach out again about the empty storefront piece. I look at it at 150,000, and I would just like to hear kind of from the council why, what the motivation is for spending that kind of money, to study something that is essentially a penalty on these owners. It's been found not only that it really isn't the driver of vacant storefronts, it's not owners who are deciding to keep them empty. Based on a study by San Francisco itself, I forget the exact date of it, but it was when they were looking at it, it's mostly internet traffic. Internet commerce is really, hitting retail, as a lot of us know. It's not that there's a wealthy owner that says, I'm not going to rent my storefront. So I just wanted to kind of talk to the council and just kind of hear from you guys about what you think we could do to maybe kind of shift this in a more positive light to, again, continue to keep MILLBRAE vibrant and to incentivize business owners, incentivize businesses, instead of spending, $150,000 just to study a penalty, to penalize these folks. And I just wanted to add one last piece, was that in February, I saw that San Francisco was served with a formal complaint by the Apartment Association and a number of other ownership groups that tax is actually illegal based on the Fifth Amendment. And I forget the exact clause. I think it's the taking clause. Basically, that government may not take private property for public use without just compensation. So again, I just wanted to thank the council for the time, but also just to ask if there was a way that we could shift that to a more positive, inclusive, that says, hey, let's help these owners, let's listen to them and figure out how we can get, good, strong businesses in there and benefit MILLBRAE, versus spending $150,000 of tax money to, look at a penalty, potential penalty. So thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you. City Clerk, anyone else?
Yes, we have another speaker by the name of Joe. And Joe, if you could please state your full name for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Joe Chen. I am a MILLBRAE resident for more than 24 years. I think it's a bad idea to spend $150,000 to study the feasibility of penalize the property owner who cannot find a tenant, and in the meantime they have to spend money on property tax, on insurance. So as a city government, I think we should study how we can help MILLBRAE to improve its business environment so that the small retail company can be attracted to rent those empty storefront in MILLBRAE. So I totally agree the opinion and the speech by the previous speaker. And I think we should not spend this money to study this penalty. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
That's all the public speaker that I can see online.
Last call for speaker slips or on top. Okay, closing public comment. I'm going to comment on the empty storefront ordinance. First of all, it's a study to look at what other cities have done, and it does not necessarily mean a penalty. In some cases, cities have required or asked businesses to keep storefronts that have been empty to put artwork in the window, to work with the local community, to make it a reason to walk down that part of the street. And Mr. Lamont, you and I grew up together. We swam together on MILLBRAE Otters. We carpooled together. And you will remember Schneider's men's clothing store. That storefront has been empty for probably, I moved back to MILLBRAE in 2006, so I'm going to guess 20 plus years. That storefront has been half, that is correct. So we've got a number of properties that have been empty before COVID, before the '08 recession, before Black Tuesday in the 90s. They simply are empty because in some cases they own the building so long, the property tax is so tiny, why not on that? So let the city look at the investment, look at the plans. It does not necessarily mean a penalty. It could be ways of encouraging and enhancing. And my personal opinion, we tried to do a business improvement district, and maybe it was during COVID making it tougher. But I don't think, based on other analysis that other people have done here in MILLBRAE, haven't come to the city yet, that because of the long-term ownership, they have no incentive to join a BID. And therefore, if many blocks of Broadway don't look that good, and generally that's going to hurt the existing shopkeepers on there. I mean, even when we were kids, we did not walk down to the 200 block because there wasn't much for us to walk down there too. Now there's a lovely new florist in there. There's a woman's cosmetic office, but we have more vacant properties on that. So yes, we do have to work on incentives to bring businesses in. We cannot control what landlords do on that. So that's just my personal opinion on that. And I don't think we're going to get the BID without it, or without the threat of it. Gina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the speakers. What is the name of it again? Because I lost it on here. I mean, I thought we weren't doing a vacancy thing. We were just doing a storefront, like study. So we're not doing a vacancy ordinance.
It says an empty storefront ordinance is what's in the staff report.
Can I see the staff report again? Where is it here? Just because I've been trying to ask the city manager for further clarification on this one.
Yeah, I think as Mr. Mogeson explained, there are many ways to kind of achieve the objective of the goal. And it isn't, as being discussed, not necessarily punitive. I think how can we incentivize storefronts? I think part of it is the attractiveness of the downtown to attract, various businesses, make it more attractive for rental. Perhaps facade improvement program. We part of the one of the goals is the creation of the business improvement district. That will obviously, I think, dictate when we start that process, what are the needs of the businesses, what are the needs of the property owners downtown, and what are some of the driving forces that we can actually provide assistance to improve downtown MILLBRAE and the vibrancy, business retention, business expansion, and business attraction. I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean, that's how I look at this.
No, it does kind of, studying what others are doing, but I find that very different than, a vacancy ordinance here. I think we are trying to head in the direction of studying how we can kind of help the businesses, and because back in the day, they did actually have funding to help improve building fronts and things. Facade improvement programs. So I'd be interested in that, but I'm not comfortable with a vacancy ordinance. So
and just
the study will be interesting.
And the source of funds, right? So the facade improvement program was funded by redevelopment tax increment money. And so when that was eliminated, that dried up. But perhaps there's another way of a revolving loan program through creation of a BID and assessment, that type of thing. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do and look at.
So, I mean, we have studied a BID before. Are we starting from scratch, or what's happening here? We did spend hundreds of thousands of dollars previously. I hope we're not recreating the wheel.
It wasn't that much, and we went to a vote, and there was 47%. We needed a 50% plus one to create the BID.
So we have
COVID
new
hit.
staff. Yeah, I'd just like you not to start from scratch.
Yeah, I can assure you we'll be as efficient and we will not be starting from scratch.
I appreciate that.
Councilman Fung.
Yeah, I think the clarification would certainly benefit. I think as the public might have read the staff report that says on here that these types of ordinance typically require property owners to register, secure, and maintain vacant properties that remain unoccupied for a certain period of time. A registration fee is generally collected and used for code enforcement monitoring effort, blah, blah, blah. And then it further down says some ordinances says additional fees depending on the durations of vacancy. And I think that's kind of where prompted the public to be more engaged in this discussion. But I will say, first of all, beautifying our downtown is certainly a positive goal, and we're highly supportive of it. And I think that's kind of where, between cultural art and community enhancement could be helpful in those regard. How to dress up, not just vacant storefront, but every storefront in downtown. Obviously, we wanted to get the business owners and the property owners on board with this. I would imagine a sizable, conscientious outreach effort would be beneficial here to bring everyone on board. As part of the BID, we want our business owners to be successful. We want our downtown property owners to be successful. This is about setting us up for success here. Obviously, a good public policy should not be penalizing property owners, should not be penalizing business owners. We want to incentivize them. We want to work with them. We want to bring them along. We want to work with stakeholders within our city in order to bring about better tax revenue and be able to offer better and more services to our residents. So I agree with my colleagues here that I too would not be in supportive of a vacant storefront ordinance where it penalizes people or assess additional fees. When it comes to fee assessment, it needs to be equitable. Just because they're struggling to find a tenant, we cannot charge people for that, nor penalize property owner for that. But I'm more for supporting our local property owners, storefront owners, and business owners to help them be more involved and beautify our downtown storefront. And I think, in terms of appropriation, perhaps we can work with AMCAC and community enhancement to bring about more discussion on this topic. As we look forward to the BID, we're appropriating $150,000 to do the business improvement district, and I think that is a much needed effort, and that's based on the points that it received. It's obvious that we need to prioritize that ahead of everything else. That is an important element that we must focus on, and depending on how the BID is progressing, we can discuss how we can help business owners and property owners who are still searching for a tenant, how to get them to be more effective in finding better tenants and be able to help incentivize more businesses to come to MILLBRAE. So I think that's the direction at which we should be coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Fung.
And just on that note, I mean, our buildings in the downtown are old. Obsolescence has set in. There are things that, for example, ADA, right? So to upgrade a building for occupancy, it's costly. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we do have the vacancies. So in order to receive an occupancy permit through a tenant improvement permit, it's costly to bring the building up to code for occupancy. And that's something that we need to look at. And then how can we actually incentivize, both through economics or some type of a resource? Maybe it's a reduction of the fee, for plans and improvements. Somehow, with you hear me say all the time, with the dissolution of redevelopment, local municipalities lost a very valuable tool to finance and incentivize redevelopment and improve building obsolescence. And maybe it's an unfunded mandate that we actually take to our lobbyists and we take to Cal Cities and, say, hey, we've got these building codes, fire codes. Obviously, health safety is above and, number one. But we need some type of a mechanism or cities, communities will continue to be blighted, and we'll get into this hole that, you know, is not fixable. So maybe it's something like that. I mean, I think the unfunded mandate at the state level is something that cities need to actually have a more aggressive stance and position on. So maybe, you know, I think there's a lot that can come out of this as we think through why not only vacancies, we know the issues with where the retail brick and mortar market is, but also with the general plan, with the downtown plan, buying power, the number of jobs that are being created, the number of residential, you know, units that will be built. That adds to the demand, and that will also help. So there's a lot of different variables that go into this.
I would throw one more thing now. The entire length of MILLBRAE, or from MILLBRAE Avenue to San Bruno, on either block of El Camino Real up to Magnolia and then to the railroad tracks, is an equity focus area under San Mateo County. In theory, that should open up the possibility. I don't work as much on the economic development side. I used to know where the grant funding is. But again, you have to have a community that's going to come together. And our last BID, it's great that we had 47%, but we didn't get to 50% plus one. So realtors out there, I would encourage you to be working with the landlords. It's got to be the property owners. It's not the tenants on here. And if we can get the BID, that gives us the funding that can help with that, and the new sidewalk and the, you know, just basically 21st century public spaces on that. So I'm going to wrap up this one. I thank you for the discussion. Let's keep the discussion going on that. Someday, my not related Schneider's men's clothing store will have something in it that isn't a restaurant. I think that's where it got caught on there. My last comment on solar generation and city tree ordinance, exactly what are we spending the money on? I'm not sure. I mean, I read it, but exactly what?
We would be developing a code in the municipal code to require over and above what the state code currently requires for solar generation. So we'd have to develop criteria on commercial projects, for example, having solar. How much? How would that be done? It's a REACH code. As you know, we recently did REACH codes as a part of the follow-up for the Climate Action Plan. Those were brought to council not that long ago. This would be growing and building on that effort.
So I'm completely in support of anything that's distributive generation. That means putting the power close to where the power is going to be used instead of out in the desert with big transmission lines. That's what DG means. But is Peninsula Clean Energy working on the same ordinance, and can we piggyback on that?
Let me kind of address that a little bit here. The idea of the solar generation ordinance is to encourage larger and mixed-use type development to also comply with a higher standard when it comes to solar generations on site. Low-rise multi-residential building, it's already being required by the Energy Code, by the California Building Code, to have solar on site to achieve a certain amount of net zero. And I think for larger residentials and mixed-use building, they can do a better job, right, in terms of their achieving better net zero standard. And then at the same time, one thing that I was hoping that I would have the council comment and I can discuss, but I can try to do that here a little bit. I just came back from San Diego from a Cal CCA conference. One of the big topic of discussion there was the electrifications of California as a whole, and how electricity demand will soar in the next 10, 15, 20 years as we look forward to electrification of Caltrain, transportations, as more and more electric vehicles are going to be on the road, and we're getting rid of our reliance on fossil fuel and gasoline. The electricity demand is going to soar, and we're going to put a lot more demand on our grid, which some of us were discussing how much infrastructure work would need to be done in terms of being able to deliver power, especially at peak hours, when everyone comes home and start turning on the lights, start charging their EVs, when everything all of a sudden becoming electrical appliances. You know, gas furnaces will be, if there's a burnout ordinance by 2027 that we're not going to be able to allow, as 9 County has already legislated through BACMAT, no more gas-powered water heaters and gas-powered furnaces. And that's a burnout ordinance.
So is PCE working on the same ordinance that we would be working on?
PCE is working on a lot of stuff, and then they are championing a lot of different
Peninsula Clean Energy.
ordinances. Yes, of which I am a board member of. And so, but without talking about PCE for the moment, what I'm trying to clarify what this direction of this ordinance is to get to the point where, in addition to solar generation power and using the power where it's generated, and to not put so much load on the grid, but as well as building up that battery resilience, power resilience, so that requiring battery in some of the larger development, where they can afford it and be able to make sense to put them in, they can achieve greater net zero in terms of, and requiring less reliance on the grid and be able to use those power even when the sun goes down. So that's the direction in which I think, as a state where we're moving into, and PCE has always been a big champion for greater power resilience throughout our community.
So it sounds to me that, first of all, I'd definitely make sure if Peninsula Clean Energy or any of the other community choice aggregate CCAs are doing this before we spend pretty valuable money on that. It sounds like the solar ordinance or solar generation would include battery storage and making sure our codes, if not the state's codes, have the right building codes in there to make sure that they're done safely. I mean, I tried to get the city to go and put white roofs, cool roof ordinance, and was told we have to wait until it comes to the universal building code. So I'm going to be quite honest here. I have 40 years of working in the environmental field. And out of all of our goals, many, many, many of our goals are what I would call climate resiliency. They're work that we have to do because more rain falls at one time, or it's work that we have to do because you can't have sewage running into the bay. But in terms of climate absorption, carbon absorption, climate change work, we're spending $75,000 to do an ordinance that came to the MILLBRAE Community Enhancement Committee and the Park and Rec Committee in 2018 and 2019 and got stalled there. So the only thing we are doing, people of MILLBRAE, the only thing we are doing for climate change is $75,000. And I cannot tell you how much that hurts me as a professional in this field. Now, I know we are going to be net zero at the recreation center. And I know that we've got South City scavengers in here who are a huge part of our climate change goals. And every time you put that banana peel in the yard waste bin, you are saving the planet in one tiny way. But the most we could come up with out of these goals is $75,000 for a tree ordinance that should have been done years ago. So I have been depressed ever since we had that last goal-setting meeting. It breaks my heart as much as I am happy for this. And it's this goal-setting are our priorities on there. And basically this says, we'll go work on an ordinance that's good for solar. Yay, someday it will have a return on investment. And $75,000 for a tree ordinance. I wish we could do more. I wish we could do better. So with that, I have nothing else to say. We've had public comment. If there's no other comments there, this is an informational item. I really did like the staff report. I think you did a great job highlighting everything. I have perfect trust that the website is going to have those projects in there. I do think that I did hear from a couple of people about what's happening in the Lower Highlands neighborhood. So making sure, and I know our PIO went home, but that's okay, I know she'll catch this, making sure that all of the streets that are gonna have the road repair, it's all the street trees. It's the 300 block of Ashton, Hazel, Palm, Poplar. We make sure the residents know what's going on because I think they're gonna be so proud of that. And I think it's a really incredible capital improvement project. It was pretty amazing to look at. So I thank you, staff, even though there's just not enough trees.
So Mayor, if I may on that, and maybe Sam can back me up on this. So we are a Tree City USA designation, which to maintain that designation requires for us to plant 3 trees per capita.
We have to spend at least $2 per capita on a tree program.
Okay, so that's, and we do have built in to our budget, around $60,000 for tree planting programs. It's not part of the goals. It's not in the CIP. It's in other areas of our operating budget. So we do have, and when we bring the budget, we can allocate that and point that out for tree planting projects throughout the city.
And I thank you for that. And yet we can, the scientists just came out last week that we're going to hit tipping point in 2026, 2027. The question now is whether we will come back from it or not. This is something real, but the problem with climate change is it's so much easier to take care of potholes because it's what we see right away. And we don't take care of the things that are going to take a long time to get there. And I wish the public, I need the public to come up. The city needs, the planet needs, the public can come up and tell us if this is important to you so that we will find the funding or we will get ourselves structured in such a way that we can apply for trees. We're now a equity focus area that should help us get the CAL FIRE tree planting ordinances, but we're just not there yet. MILLBRAE has just been so far behind in getting our ducks in a row so that we might be able to get the help because we have a small economy. That is reality, and I'm so grateful for all the economic development, but it's not enough. It's not enough if we hit tipping point in 3 years, people. It just isn't enough. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item, my near and dear, agenda item number 9.
Mayor, if I may just procedurally, just closure on this, any other feedback, not to. Just
take away my crying last thunder.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that as a council body, there aren't any other input or anything as we move forward and bring back our CIP budget, or if we're on the right track and
I think so.
Things are looking good.
Yeah. I think we're on the right track. I think also leaders lead. I mean, of course, we want the public to come in, but we have to also lead when the public isn't present. I think we also have to make sure that we walk the walk. We can't say we want to be energy efficient and we're sitting in one of the city's most inefficient buildings in our city. We got to take action, and it's more than just platitudes. So that's all I would just add. So as we're talking and talking about, businesses and high rises, what are we doing? Leaders lead. And so it's a matter of what are we doing now? How are we building out that example of what we want our community to be?
And maybe, Sam, you can address that with PCE and the installation of the solar panels on Library, Chakotay parking lot and the timing of that.
Are we talking about storage as well? And then, it just goes a long way for us to make sure that we're not just saying solar, but we're saying solar and storage. They go hand in hand. Yes. And creating opportunities, not just to see what we're doing as a city, but how can we make the connection for others to do it? How do we make sure that we're holding others accountable that can do it? That's what we're hearing here. So that's all I wanted to add.
And that's correct. And we've been working very hard with PCE with our solar projects along with the storage.
Yeah, and the key point is resiliency, right? So to that end, just small little request, and I didn't mean to do that. I mean, I was hoping I would do it earlier, but just reminded me as we're looking at street lights, putting on new street lights. Obviously, security is important. Councilmember Pappen mentioned that we should have solar street light. And I was doing a little search online. There are some very cost-effective street lights that are both battery operated as well as solar, which means as you charge the battery that is within the street light during the day, and at night it powers through that battery as it is charged and the sun goes down. So that helps. So look into those directions and see if there is more improvement that we can make. Again, we got to put our money where our mouth is, so actions speak louder than words. We need to be leading in this resiliency effort, in this decarbonization effort.
Okay. I would only say the right frequency of light. from the Dark Skies program. On that. Okay, closing agenda item number 8. Moving on to new business. And almost my apologies for having South City scavengers, but you know I love to see you guys here. Next up is resolution approving a revised schedule of maximum garbage rates in accordance with the franchise agreement with South San Francisco Scavenger Company. This is an action item, and Mr. Williams, please get us started.
I will introduce our Director of Engineering and Public Works, Mr. Sam Batista.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and City Council members. The item before you is a resolution approving new maximum garbage rate schedule. So just to give you some background information, in 2009, the City Council approved a new franchise agreement with the South San Francisco Scavenger Company for an 8-year term. The agreement was extended in 2017 for 8 years until 2025, and the agreement requires that rates are reviewed and adjusted accordingly each year, with the new rates becoming effective on July 1st of each year. Next slide, please. The franchise agreement calls for a 3-year cycle of rate adjustments. The first 2 years, the maximum allowable garbage rates are based on 80% of any changes in the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. Every 3rd year, any potential changes in rates are based on a rate survey of a pre-selected group of cities. So last year's rates were adjusting accordingly to the CPI at 5.19%, which is equal to 80% of 6.49%. This year's rates are being adjusted, and it results in a 3.9% increase, which is equal to 80% of 4.87%. And currently, the city is in its 2nd year of the cycle. Next slide, please. So this slide just shows you the different rates of carts and debris boxes based on a 3.9% increase. As you can see, the commercial 32-gallon cart has been increased by $1.49 all the way to the debris box, which is an increase of $27.62. Next slide, please. So the approval of the proposed rates will result in an increase to the franchise fees for the General Fund and Integrated Waste Management Enterprise Fund, as indicated in the staff report. The South San Francisco Scavenger Company will include a notice for a potential rate increase effective July 1st on customers' June bill. So next slide, please. And the recommendation is to adopt a resolution adopting a new maximum garbage rate schedule effective July 1st, 2023. And that concludes my short presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Batista. Before I open it up to council, I did receive, maybe we all received at least one. I think I received 2 public comments on that. And City Manager, we have an existing contract. It has a formula built in the contract that stipulates what we do. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay. So, I mean, no one likes to see increased rates, but here's the reality. We are in the middle of a pretty high inflationary rate, which impacts everything. And as I said earlier, one of the things every one of us does by participating in curbside recycling and curbside yard waste is that little bit of protecting the planet. So to me, this is an investment well worth making it. City Council, comments? I see no council comments. I have no paper slips. Do we have anybody?
There are no hands raised online, Mayor.
Okay, very good. The one thing I would love to have is to know exactly how we're doing on participation rates. Really just because we work in the same industry, the ick factor. We know that we have a food scrap program. We have a really amazing food scrap collection program, but a lot of people think it's icky. Believe it, that's the technical term, icky, to put it in their yard waste bin. They might put it in their garbage can. They don't think twice about that, but it's icky to put it in their green waste bin. And this happens any place where food programs have been going. So if we could get an update of just how we're doing and what we need to do to make sure our residents are really putting their food scraps in there, because truly it keeps the food scraps out of a landfill. that creates methane that it releases right into the atmosphere in a very short time frame. In this way, South City Scavenger captures it in vessel, processing it, and turns it into biofuel, which helps us achieve our SB 1383 compost purchasing requirements and we've got to work on that law. But this is absolutely a tremendous program for climate change on that. And we're unique in having this kind of program, one of the first in the state, one of the first in the country, and definitely a leadership role in there. So with that, I would take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Second?
Thank you, Councilwoman Cahalan. Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Councilmember Pappen,
Yes.
Councilmember Cahalan,
Aye.
Councilmember Fung,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Goodman,
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
Thank you. New business item number 9 passed by the vote of 5-0.
Thank you. And it is Public Works Month, I believe still, and I think it's Public Works Week. So thank you to all the crew out there with South City Scavenger. Okay, last item, agenda item number 10, establishment of joint schools council subcommittee and appoint members. This is an action item. And City Manager, do we have a presentation?
Mayor, just real briefly to remind the City Council, this stems from the joint meeting of the City Council and School Board, and there was directions to place this item on the agenda for appointment of a City Council subcommittee to represent the city in more detailed discussions with the same subcommittee that the school district will be appointing.
So, Council, I have a question. We had our first, after years, joint City Council School Board meeting a week ago today. Great discussion, great ways that we can work together. Obviously, I'm on the County Bike Pedestrian Committee, and I'm the liaison to MILLBRAE's Bike Pedestrian Committee. And we need to be able to work with the school district on bike pedestrian safe routes to school issues. And when I read the staff report, it was I'm all in favor of a subcommittee of 2 to kind of run the general, but how can we handle, and I'm open to hearing how we might be able to do that, see if I can get 1 or 2 of the school board members or a school board member and staff to work more closely with the city on all things on safe bike and pedestrian. And so we can encourage kids to walk and bike to school. Can I be that? I want to be able to reach out to the school district and their trustees and say, would somebody join us? We have a 2-person MILLBRAE Bike Pedestrian Subcommittee of Park and Rec, and we're just not in a good position for getting more attention, meaning more money and getting more program. Help me with this. What can we do?
Well, so I received similar comment from another council member. And if there is confusion, should there be 2 subcommittees or 1 subcommittee? I mean, that's really at the pleasure of the city council. I would just say, if that's the direction of the city council, we do need to reach out then to the school district to see if they want a second subcommittee. Then I would say this, is that we have governance issues that are brought up. Like you just said, well, we have a BPAC, we have an infrastructure subcommittee, we have, other committees. So if it's a governance issue, I would not recommend we create a subcommittee to create a subcommittee because another subcommittee is not doing something. I would say let's eliminate that other subcommittee and rethink it, because we do have a lot of committees, we have a lot of commissions, we have a lot of subcommittees. And so we need to really start looking at how we manage that and utilize time and efficiency to become effective with these subcommittees.
Do you mean the Bike Pedestrian Subcommittee under Park and Rec? Because the problem, to apply for any bike and pedestrian grant, an entity must have a committee that handles bike and pedestrian issues. Some handle it under Public Works, some are under, just learned that Burlingame has its, what do they call it? Traffic. It came up in that email from Burlingame regarding the new bike path on Murchison on the Burlingame side. So we have to have it in one format. I think, and I see the councilwoman's hand up there. Go ahead, Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And so I just along those lines here, because I know how important this is for everybody's public safety, actually. So it is my understanding that the CCAG Safe Routes to School funding actually goes to our city staff, Public Works. And then and I think that was clarified. So I think actually the city leads the way on that, and I think we just need to really enhance the communication with the school district staff to get that going. Is that correct?
That is correct. And after the joint meeting, the chief business officer at the school district reached out to me.
Good.
So that staff to staff,
Yes.
we would work with each other to help the principals of those schools as they develop applications. Engineering would assist them to review the application and provide them with any technical, technical help, whether it's to develop the cost estimates or to look at and review the plan itself and see if we can make it a very holistic project by adding other aspects to the project that we can add into projects in the right of way and on private property. So we would look at it holistically, and I have a meeting with them on June 1st. So I'll be talking with the principals and with the chief business officer. So we are coordinating.
And so I believe what this council's priority is that to happen so that the city then takes advantage of this funding for the benefit of the school. So I think, Madam Mayor, that we can cover that, that we can get some assurances from our staff. It sounds like this is really progressing in exactly the right direction. We would just like to see the city take advantage of that funding on behalf of the school district.
Right, and as I stated at the joint meeting, that I wanted to collaborate closely with the school district, because that's something that has been a priority for everyone, not only just the city and the school districts, but the parents, and they're very vocal. So I would like to collaborate much more closely with the school district.
So I think the ball's already rolling. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Can I just throw out another example? When I lived in Mountain View, and there are two high schools there, Mountain View High School, Los Altos High School, a lot of kids driving cars as soon as they're 16. And the neighborhood started screaming because they couldn't get in and out of their houses. They had no places to park because the kids were parking everywhere. It was dangerous. So the school district, the high school district, actually worked with the city of Mountain View and Los Altos to encourage biking to work or biking to school and walking to school. If we're only meeting twice a year, which really means the two councils would basically be updating, not really planning anything together, how would that kind of program? And I'll use my own street as an example. We are a freeway for people taking their kids to school and picking them up, to the point where 3 cars were totaled in 1 week. There has to be some communication with the school district that they are part of the problem on that. And so I can understand not creating yet another subcommittee on that. I would wish that we had a standalone, fully built out bike and pedestrian committee, bike and pedestrian traffic calming committee that would have a council liaison and maybe a school liaison to it if we went that structure on that. But I actually ran for council on traffic calming because our cars got hit so often. I drive a 2010 car because it gets hit every couple of months. Why have a nice car when nobody stops when they hit your car? And that is what it's like when you live on Palm and Poplar Avenue and Taylor Boulevard, and in some cases Ashton on that. That's the life that we live every day on that. So I'll forego this, but truly and honestly, there are a number of reasons why we don't get bike pedestrian grants. And part of that is we have to up our game. And we did not get in our goal setting a look and evaluation of our committees and commissions to see if they're all still set up to do the needs of the city. And I've been talking about this for a couple of years, and I had to put my points on trees or we would have done nothing for climate change. So I had to give up the committee and commission review, which I dearly believe we have to have for trees. So I'm just, you obviously can tell how frustrated I am. How absolutely frustrated on that. And we really do need a traffic, bike, pedestrian committee that can be that center point to bring the conversations together.
And Mayor, I would just say this. I understand. We have, call it $10 a need, $1 revenue. We're trying to fit 20 pounds into a 3-pound sack. And we understand, but we also have to be realistic. And we have to be able to prioritize, and prioritizing is difficult. And once we achieve these objectives, because I think we have a great foundation as we're getting out of a deep, deep hole, as I've said before, and we're incrementally improving. We've done a lot of great things. This council has done tremendous things with very limited resources, and we're continuing. And so I think that we have to not set ourselves up for failure either. And so we have to, manage it. You set the policy, we implement it. If there's a desire of the city council to establish a separate BPAC or a BP TAC, bicycle pedestrian traffic, we will do that. No problem, just give us that direction. Then I would say, okay, as we manage that and we implement that, here are the other things that I would then discuss and say, okay, here's a way to implement that and not set ourselves up for failure so the BP TAC is successful.
Thank you. We have $250,000 to look at yet another housing ordinance. Housing has captured all of our city's attention for years, and we have to do it. I get that we have to do it.
Says that we have
to do it. So, and I'm the first one up in Sacramento saying, Scott Wiener, Senator Becker, if you vote for this current bill that's moving, you are taking away our ability to work on safety issues and climate change issues. And I firmly believe that with every ounce of me.
Or advocate funding sources to the local level.
What does it matter? The funding sources will go to the cities that write the better grants, who have the bigger staffs to write the grants.
Point of order. We have to stay germane to the item here. I mean, we're talking about a school 2+2 committee.
I'm calling.
And we're going on something else. So.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I think I'm definitely on board with a general committee. I think there's so many different topics that we have in common to work with the school board. It's exciting to see that some of those connections with pedestrians and bike and traffic calming and transportation are starting. But I do think that is such a big piece that we need to find a way, whether a subcommittee or another piece, because I think it's really important for staff to be working, but also in those areas with Mayor Schneider and Councilmember Pappen, we've got a lot of skill sets and background in, safe routes, traffic calming, transportation, equity focus areas, street striping, electric school buses, all of these notes I took kind of fall under, it really is enough for its own subcommittee. So I think that's something either we consider tonight or we reconvene with the school board to see if that's something of interest. And then looking at the general committee, I think there's a lot of areas that we can cover, from disaster preparedness, housing planning and preparedness for future school enrollment, grants, mental health, technology, community resources for families, ballot measure coordination. I have a long list here that I took. And I'll put out there that I'm very interested in being on this committee as a parent with students in the schools, seeing ways, having background in many of these areas and seeing ways that we can work together to support each other. I'd really like to be on that subcommittee.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Fung, then Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you. Several things. I respect your passion in pedestrian and bike safety. It is an important topic. I do believe, even though some of those accidents happen during school hours or pickup time or just early in the morning when kids are trying to go to school. It's not the school district's problem. It is a traffic safety issues that we need to deal with. We need to make sure that, we have safe street and people follow traffic law and that it doesn't become an accident happening. I mean, traffic calming is such an important topic. We talk about this over and over and over again. Halland Drive, for example, has been well known for needing additional traffic calming measure, and that is not even limited.
Again, I'm sorry. Through the chair, we're not talking on the subject. We have an agenda. We have to talk about that item. And we have to follow Robert's rules. If we're not going to follow that, then say we're not going to follow it. We can suspend it and we can suspend the meeting. But we have to stay focused on the agenda.
So the agenda item
Then let's
right
please
now,
do that.
I'm taking the need, I had thought that perhaps Councilwoman Pappen and I could handle the bike pedestrian, given the hats that we wear. But given
We
the
should have put that
structure
on
at
the
this
agenda
time.
as a
I
bike
should have,
pedestrian.
and I had mentioned
No, we
it
didn't.
to staff ahead of time, and I thought we had said it a week ago. But given that what's on the agenda, and we can change the item on there, I am happy, not happy, but I actually am really excited that this will go together. I didn't like the council subcommittee of two, but I would make the nomination of Councilwoman Cahalan and Vice Mayor Goodman to be on this council subcommittee. They both have backgrounds in schools and a passion and a desire. And I am very grateful for Councilwoman Cahalan, who took notes during our conversation last week of everything that we could be in partnership. And I'm not blaming the schools, but the schools used to have buses when I grew up here, and they got rid of buses for budget and put it onto the city. There has to be some equity in who's responsible. So I've got a motion on the floor for Councilwoman Cahalan and Vice Mayor Goodman, if they accept.
Sure, I accept.
And there's a motion. Is there a second? Actually, I have to open this up for public comment. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gina, and then public comment. I thought I saw a form.
Yeah, I was just confused. So Councilmember Cahalan and I were working on the field agreement. So I was.
My
Are we
concern,
done with
Gina,
that
is you and
one?
I are gone in a year and a half. I'm trying to create bandwidth for long-term viability. You and I are gone in a year and a half.
Well, I work very hard during.
I
the years,
absolutely
and
work hard all the time,
And
but
actually,
we're
I'm
gone.
going to be teaching at the substitute teaching coming up here. So just as a matter of consistency, I thought that would be a better mix. But I'm just, it's just a point. Are we done with the one committee then? Because we haven't yet finalized that. So are we looking at one committee or two?
Well, how about this? I'll reach out to the school district and see what their recollection of the meeting was, if there was two subcommittees or one subcommittee.
Well, there was one subcommittee. I was just saying, we are already on a subcommittee working with the fields.
Right,
So I thought that would be something.
Yeah, I got feedback, like I said, from, the mayor this evening and another council member thinking that they thought that there would be two subcommittees, and that's not, I don't know. I didn't hear that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, so I don't know if there's confusion amongst the council here, but I heard one subcommittee, school district will go appoint a subcommittee, the city will appoint a subcommittee on all matters school related. If that's different, that's at the pleasure of the council.
Yeah, so
tell me what you want.
I guess that was my concern as well. Is the
Field.
fields subcommittee, is that going to sunset at some point? Was that a temporary committee to sunset, to focus only just on the MOU or the agreement that was outstanding?
Right, that is correct. That will
sole
sunset once an agreement is reached by September 15th.
Just wanted to point that out.
And then is there, as we discuss the joint school council subcommittee, do we also discuss calendaring and, our expectations or our hopes for that group to meet quarterly and to have those quarterly reports back to the council and possibly having those two group or, united meetings between the two, the school board and the council?
I think the idea of, I'm sorry, the smaller group was you guys would, whoever would have more flexibility in establishing those meetings.
Okay. But my understanding is that that's when you have the conversations on those high level, because as board members, they direct, they don't do. And so when we're talking about all these things that pop up, it's high level where you're saying, hey, these are some concerns. You build the agenda on a fly and say, this is a concern that we're seeing. And then you work towards that and you direct staff to work on it. Like we're directing staff, you hold them accountable. We'll hold our staff accountable with some check-ins. And that's, I think, how you become more efficient when we're talking about safe routes to school. You know, in the past, when I was on the school board, they worked together with the city, but it was staff to staff. The direction to say, hey, we need to focus on safe routes to school came from the board and the council. So I just want to make sure that we have that understanding that this subcommittee, however it's made up, that we understand our role and the role of the school board, that our role is really to build the relationship so that we can bring concerns and opportunities up to both sides, that if they can and will be elevated to the board level or the council level, or their staff, that we're directing them. We're not doing the work. So.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public comment? Did you get a slip? I thought I saw Ron Raquel bring a slip.
That's not related to the item at hand.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. All right, City Council, I had suggested something. Typically, mayors don't make the motion. It sounds like we have one person who definitely wants to be on the commission or a subcommittee and somebody who wants to. I'm just concerned that we start training up our new council members and giving them that relationship because
I understand
of the
that.
timing.
Hopefully, then the subcommittee is then to lead into the regular joint committee meetings that we have. So I do hope that, you know, at some amount of time, some institutional memory is good in bringing on new members here. So I would like to be on the committee as well. So that's just a preference.
Okay,
So, Mayor,
I did have a council person ask me that they
Mayor,
really
if-
wanted to work with
if
the
I-
vice mayor,
Mayor,
but
if I
if that's
can-
not the direction we're
Mayor, if
going,
I can,
fine.
Because I think the vice mayor brings up valid points about following Robert's Rules of Orders. And so there is a motion on the floor. You made a motion, so you're awaiting a second.
And if there's no second, it fails. Okay, that motion fails. Back for discussion.
And I'll make a subsequent motion for Councilmember Cahalan and myself to be on the subcommittee.
I'll second that. Further discussion or public comment? I have no public comment slips. City Clerk, do we have anybody online?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Closing public comment, bringing it back to council. Any other comments? Please call the vote.
Councilmember Pappen.
Yes?
Councilmember Cahalan.
Aye.
Councilmember Fung.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Goodman.
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
The City Council established a joint school council subcommittee and appoint Councilmember Gina Pappen and Councilmember Angelina Cahalan to the subcommittee to meet with the MILLBRAE Elementary School District Board of Trustees Subcommittee and Representative. The motion passed by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk. We will be closing in memory of Sylvia Pignotti, Lady Lion Sylvia Pignotti tonight. But before we do that, we're still under time. If council could go through any updates they may like to do. And I think I started this way last time, so I'll start that way. Councilwoman Pappen.
No updates.
No comment.
Councilman Fung.
Okay. I talked about it a little bit earlier. Attended the Cal CCA conference, great conference, first time in 3 years. Talked a lot about how to bring more resiliency to our grid and be able to deliver power, and talked about the expectations in terms of the growth of need for electricity as a state. We also talk a lot about how we need to be more flexible in allowing power generators to be able to produce the energy that we're going to need. Many of them are having a difficult time in the Central Valley and try to obtain permits and be able to produce energy. So one solution that all of us can do here locally, and I discussed it a little bit earlier, is to find ways to produce more power on site on your own, and then also with storage. Power batteries are getting increasingly affordable. So I think as we look forward to updating our ordinances, part of the initiative needs to be figuring how to bring more battery storage into newer developments so that our reliance on the grid could be lessened, especially during peak hours. More to come. PCE is looking forward to a sizable budget coming up next year with approximately $250 million in cash. So trying to ensure that we continue to make our headway into decarbonization. More to come on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Cahalan.
Last week, we had the Park and Rec Commission meeting, and our representative from Gates came and gave a presentation on the conceptual designs for Marina Vista and Bayside Manor Parks. And we had a great discussion, and looking forward to seeing the results of the survey and having any updates on the design with the survey results coming to council. I'm expecting sometime in June, one of the June meetings. TBD. Will the park conceptual designs come to council in June?
I believe we're scheduled for June 13th.
Actually, because the survey is ending on June 1st, we're giving Gates time to compile the results. Right. So we're coming back on June, the second meeting in June.
Okay, great. And so for the public, that'll be the next opportunity to see the updates and give public comment on that. I believe the community meetings that we've been having, that phase is done. So all future public comment on the parks will be at the city council meeting presentations and the Park and Rec Committee presentations. The spin bikes, I'm seeing them around town. It looks like people are using them quite a bit. So I look forward to when we get the first report in on that. I guess I just want to speak to our strategic planning as well. I know there's been a lot of feedback on the dais tonight around that. I've spoken very candidly with the city manager. I really hope for a different process next year. I know this is a process that's been done for a long time, but just because something's been done a certain way for a long time doesn't mean it has to stay that way. For folks who aren't familiar, the current process is we have 6 strategic initiatives, and we each share actions. We say goals, but they're really actions that we want to do in those categories, and then we kind of compile them all together, have discussion, and take a vote. To me, that doesn't feel very strategic. It kind of allows us all to put some ideas in, and some get some wins and some not. But I'd really, next year, like for us as a council to think about what are our goals? Do we have goals around climate change? Do we have goals around infrastructure? And what are some of the measurements we want on that? And then once we know what those goals are, what are the actions we're going to take to reach that? So I just put that out there because I think that would be a more thoughtful, more strategic, more sustainable process and give more meaning to what we're doing and what vision we have for the city as leaders. And going in that order versus starting with the actions, we can all come out with something I think that we're really proud of and that's going to really move us forward as a city and working together. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. In fact, that's actually an interesting point. We've never debriefed the process year after year.
So
to see
Mayor,
how we might
we can
improve.
agendize this for discussion. I mean, this is something that is not on the agenda and is moving towards policy direction. So if we get
Okay.
direction to agendize this, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay. All right. First, another outcome of going back to the National League of Cities is they call me almost every other week. I've already talked to the city manager about this, but the National League of Cities has a grant boot camp, and applications are due the 31st of May. And I really hope that we have one or more MILLBRAE employees at that boot camp. It also creates the relationship with the agencies back east, which is where the money comes from. So I have to bring Broderick Smith has offered out his assistance to help us. Today, we spent about 15 minutes talking about MILLBRAE's needs, whether it's funding for the sewage treatment plant or any of the other largely transportation impacted issues here in MILLBRAE. But there are other committees. There's a public safety and crime prevention committee. If anyone from the city of any council members are interested, there's an infotech, human development, energy, environment, national resources, community development and economic development, finance administration and intergovernmental affairs. And then one that I will likely be applying for is Transportation Infrastructure Services Committee on that. But it's a way to get more involved at the level. We are a National League of Cities member. SFO's Environmental Impact Report for their sea level rise plan will be going to the San Francisco Planning Commission on June 1st. Most likely they will approve it. When I listened to the Planning Commission, one person had one comment on the entire EIR before that. So I would imagine that it will be rubber stamped. I haven't read all of the comments. There were only 5 or 6 comments made to the plan. City manager was one, I was the other. They basically downplayed anything that we said in our comments on the EIR. MILLBRAE had our BPAC meeting before the Park and Rec meeting. There is concern in the community about e-bikes on the spur trail. So I hope staff, I think Sam, there you are, Sam, if just know that I'm getting people, they're writing to me directly about concerns of the speed of e-bikes. I tried to talk about the geofencing, which I believe the e-bike program can do, and maybe we can do some public information on that. They were a little concerned about the e-bike corral by Taylor, given that you have to be 18 years old, and hopefully I explained it, that it's so that people farther up the hill have access to the bikes on that. But I think it's rolling out fine. I'm seeing people looking at them. I haven't seen anybody riding on one yet. And the Mayor's Civic Coordinating meeting is Thursday at 8:30. And Bosqua, I mentioned earlier, passed its work plan for the next year. It does include support. It's kind of nebulous. Support for member agencies for new water supply and water storage programs on that. But I think it might be in terms of helping with grants, helping with support letters, as opposed to funding on that. But I mean, the work plan to me looks great on that. And the tour of Hetch Hetchy will be on, the entire system will be on June 6th and 7th. So I will not join you all. Hopefully, Council, you will all attend Progress Seminar's 70th, it's their 70th birthday. I believe in the city has a table. So if you could get back to the city clerk about that, that would be great. All right, with that, I have nothing else. If there's nothing else, closing tonight's city council meeting in honor and in memory of Sylvia Pignotti. If anybody knew Sylvia, lovely, lovely lady, made the best biscotti ever on that. And to her family and to her friends and to the Lions, our condolences.